Good evening, College Park. It is Tuesday, 7:30 p.m., March 4th, 2025. I am calling to the order of the regular meeting of the College Park City Council, College Park, Maryland. We'll begin the meeting with a moment of silent meditation, followed by Pledge of Allegiance. Tonight, this will be led by District 1 City Council Member Jacob Hernandez. During a meditation, please continue to remember those of our neighbors who have lost their jobs in the federal space, and they're struggling with their lives, and there are hundreds and hundreds of them in College Park and in the surrounding communities. Colleagues, do you want to add anything?
Also, the victims at the fire down in the Carolinas.
North Carolina. Okay, thank you. Mayor Protem.
That's all right, Mr. Mayor. And also continue to pray for the Jacobs family. The funeral will be this Saturday, and I know this is probably a real difficult time for them right now.
Our former mayor.
Former Mayor Michael.
Thank you. Anyone else wants to add? Seeing none, please join me in a moment of silent meditation. Councilmember Hernandez.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Be seated. We will do roll call, starting with District 1 City Councilmember Hernandez.
Present.
Councilmember Alan Hill.
Present.
District 2 City Councilmember Dr. Esters.
Present.
And Whitney. Dr. Whitney.
Here.
You're going to take it. Mayor Protem Mitchell.
Present.
Maria Mackey.
Here.
Councilmember Mackey. And Councilmember Rigg.
That is Dr. Rick. No, just kidding.
Can have all the titles he wants. All right, we'll do the announcement in the same order, starting with, again, Councilmember Hernandez.
I want to briefly recognize the Women's Heritage Month that we have, Women's History Month. I'm lucky enough to have more than enough mentors on this dais, but a lot of important women in my life that have really helped, shape the man that I am today, and I'm lucky to be here because of them. I will say thank you to the Department of Public Services for putting together a wonderful public safety meeting. I want to congratulate Deputy Chief. Oh, I knew I'm going to mess this up. He got his star. Major Coletti is no longer major. He's now been promoted, so congratulations. He's going to continue to oversee the College Park contract program, but just with a little more rank and responsibilities. I want to announce that tomorrow we're excited to host a district discussion in Davis Hall and on Zoom. We're going to be talking about the district priorities that we have, upcoming budget topics, council activities. I've asked District 1 County Council Member Office to send a representative, and they'll be attending as well. So please, 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 if you can make it, we'd greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Speaking of the Women's History Month, we did make a proclamation last week, actually last month. Am I correct? Yeah, and I'd like to recognize the four of our colleagues on the dais. They have been contributing so much on a daily basis, taking care of our residents. And now, if you notice, we have a women majority council right now until the new council member is elected. So we should celebrate that. So we'll have a tie at that time. But thank you. Keep up the good work. We recognize all the good work you do. Thank you. Alan Hill, Councilmember.
Yes, thank you. And the other month for March is Colorectal Awareness Month.
You may notice the blue flags here, and some of us wearing blue. Blue is the color for colorectal awareness. I will make a few more comments on that in the second presentation.
Certainly, we will allow that, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for your leadership. Councilmember Dr. Esters.
My announcement is not as important as what my colleague, Councilmember Hugh, just shared, but I want to say to everyone, Happy Mardi Gras.
Thank you for the nice, the breeze. Councilmember
Yeah.
Whitney?
Okay, hi. I just wanted to say I'm really excited that we now have Capital Bike Share stations in College Park. There's one at the College Park Metro Station, one at the hotel, at the University of Maryland, and one on Guilford Drive near Trader Joe's. So it's great to be able to jump on a bike and, you know, connect with the rest of that network, which we, until recently, could not do. So very exciting.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you to my colleague from District 1, Mr. Hernandez, for recognizing these wonderful women on the dais, how smart and sophisticated that we are. It's truly a pleasure to serve on this dais with my colleagues. Also want to say a shout out to the city of Riverdale Park for their new business entity called Call Your Mother.
Oh, yeah.
If anybody wants some delicious bagels, that is the place to go. Early in the morning, a nice pink house in the middle of the shopping center in Whole Foods. It was very nice. I forgot to talk about that last week. Also, Mr. Mayor and my colleagues, I want to say that on Thursday, March the 13th, myself and Councilmember Mackey will be hosting a District 4 virtual meeting. Our special guest will be our own city manager, Mr. Kenny Young, and our Director of Finance, Mr. Gary Fields, to talk about the budget forecast for 2026. And last is the upcoming event on the 22nd. Prince George's County Public Schools will be hosting a Latino Education Summit. That will be from 10 to 1 at the Prince George's Community College. And I do want to thank the Communications Department for already posting it out on social media. That's all, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Mackey?
Yes. I also would like to just make sure that everyone knows that our College Park building is now ready, and there will be a ribbon cutting on Thursday at 4:30. It's in the weekly bulletin. It's on the website. And for just as this time of year, many faiths are entering into holy season, I just want to wish people of faith a blessed time.
Thank you. Councilmember Rigg?
Thank you, and happy Shrove Tuesday to all who shrove. Tonight is a busy night in the city of College Park because in addition to this meeting, we also have an expression of democracy downstairs. I'm so pleased to see our city hall being used as a voting district, and I'm pleased to see so many people out for a special election that is off cycle for county executive. Like that's a great expression of democracy in our local community, and I'm so pleased to see so many members of the community, you know, coming to our city hall to be able to cast the ballot and assert their franchise. Tomorrow night at 7 p.m. there's a meeting of the Calvert Hills Civic Association, and that is a virtual only meeting. It can be accessed via Zoom, and the link can be found at calverthills, all one word, .weebly.com. And apart from that, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing. Going to our student liaison, Ms. Orte.
The Deputy Student Liaison, Anna, and I are proud to announce that on March 27th, there will be a Know Your Rights presentation with people from Office of the Public Defender, Congressman Glenn Ivey's office, and many other speakers that will help inform students and our community members about rights for immigrants. And also, we're proud to celebrate Women's History Month.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Ms. McDonald?
Thank you. Just want to echo Ms. Ott's announcements. Also to note that the event will be open to the public. We'll discuss further the location, but it will be at UMD, and there's also will be a Zoom session as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's go to our city manager's report, Mr. Young.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, residents of College Park. Just a few quick announcements tonight. I'm very excited. College Park Woods Clubhouse ribbon cutting is this week. Help us celebrate the opening of the new College Park Woods Clubhouse with a ribbon cutting ceremony this Thursday, March 6th, from 4:30 to 5:30 p.m. The ribbon cutting ceremony will begin promptly at 4:30, followed by an open house that will stay open till we leave. Duval Field groundbreaking as well. Please join us as we celebrate the groundbreaking of the Duval Field Phase 2 renovation project next Friday, March 14th at 8:30 a.m. at Duval Field. Also, just to put on your calendar for the future, we have College Park Day. We have determined when that is. That is going to be Saturday, October the 8th at the College Park Aviation Museum and Airport from 12 to 6 p.m. And we also have Women's History Month. The city is celebrating Women's History Month with a live history performance. Bring your family to meet Eleanor Roosevelt on Saturday, March 16th at City Hall between 1 and 2 p.m. You can also register for that event at collegeparkmaryland.gov/WHM. And that's all I have for you tonight. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you.
Mayor, are you going to announce the town hall?
Oh, certainly. Thank you for reminding us. So I have spoken with all of my city council colleagues. Our staff also have been working together with the offices of the two county council members, Eric Olson and Tom Darnoga, to have a town hall in the city hall on March 22nd, which is a Saturday at 10:30. So as you know that we have so many different things, the city and the county work together. And it is important that we talk about that partnership and ask and engage the community and allow them to ask questions on the different projects and different services we work together. So again, please mark your calendar. This will be March 22nd, Saturday at 10:30. Thank you. There'll be more announcements coming on that. Councilman Mackey?
I have a clarification for the city manager. Could you clarify the women's history thing again? You said Saturday?
Saturday, March 16th at City Hall from 1 to 2 p.m.
I think it's the 15th.
I read what I get thrown in my lap.
It happens.
Okay. All
But
right.
you're
And then-
correct, March 15th.
Okay, and then College Park Day?
Is October 18th.
18th, okay. All right, just wanted to make sure that.
Thank you, Raina, for owning up to that. Appreciate that.
Thank you, certainly. Any other questions for Mr. Young? Seeing none, there isn't any elected officials in the room, or we have quite a few guests online, which is great. We don't see anyone. All right, let's go to proclamations and awards. Are we going to make, no, presentation is the next, okay. We do not have actual proclamations award tonight. Let me ask if there is an amendment to the agenda tonight. If not, I'll entertain a motion to adopt it.
I
Ms.
move to
Meredith?
adopt the agenda.
I like the excitement. Moved by Councilmember Whitney and seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Mitchell. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstention? The agenda has been approved. We now invite anyone who wants to speak on the non-agenda items or any items that are on the consent. I see one virtual hands, and please state your name, and if you're a resident of College Park, you have 3 minutes to speak.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. My name is Stuart Katzenberg. I'm Director of Collective Bargaining and Growth at AFSCME Maryland Council 3. We represent City of College Park employees. I wanted to thank the council and the city manager and Teresa for the recent contract negotiations that we just concluded for a 3-year agreement. We're proud of the work of our members. We're proud of the work that we were able to forge ahead with the city, that rewards our members for hard work in public works, that recognizes Indigenous Peoples Day as a holiday, which ensures improved health and safety. And, you know, we really appreciated the honest and transparent negotiations with Kenny and Teresa, and we're happy to have forged an agreement. We have a group of our members here tonight, and President of our council, Patrick Moran, who might say a couple words, and we look forward to working with you and having more contracts in the future.
Certainly, and thank you for your hard work. And I know negotiation is not easy, but you and our staff, Mr. Young and Teresa, you did a fantastic job working together to make it happen. And I'm so happy that you are happy, because that's what we want. We want you all to be happy and work for our residents. We see so many compliments from the community for the hard work you do on a daily basis. So keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Anyone else? Okay. There will be more opportunities in a few minutes. We'll be celebrating this contract in a few minutes. Please go ahead. State your name and if you're a resident of College Park.
Hello. First, I'd like to. My name is Craig Johnson. I'm a resident of College Park. I'd like to express my gratitude for the opportunity for my voice to be heard. I'm a student at the University of Maryland, and I've been a resident of College Park for many years. I'd like to comment on the consistent and disruptive loud noises coming from the construction zone in Lot 7511 on Yale Avenue and express a complaint. The construction has been going on since last semester, but it has never been nearly this loud. It starts at 7 in the morning and is immediately extremely loud. It also takes place on Saturdays. This is a day where most people like to sleep in a little bit. As a student in the middle of my semester, and many others, we simply need sleep. I've lived near construction zones before, and never have they been this disruptive. It is consistent, and it is maddening. I cannot even focus on my work during the day. Recently, I called City Hall to file a noise complaint, and they would not accept my complaint. Their reply was that the construction zone has permission to start at 7 a.m. They did not comment on the magnitude of the noise. There is an apartment complex and many houses nearby, all presumably with people who are being disturbed. So I ask, do they have permission to disturb every resident close by? And does the city realize the extent of this disruption? I moved to College Park to be a student. I need sleep to complete my degree. I ask, is this situation fair to the residents of College Park? The College Park mission includes advocating for residents and their quality of life. I ask the city to reconsider how early this construction zone can operate.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming and speaking. Mr. Young, do you have any comment?
I just want to comment, that is, I believe the property is referring to is on the University of Maryland campus. Mm-hmm. And so there is a different way we have to deal with that particular noise situation. We've dealt with it on other projects as well that are happening on the university campus, and I'll talk with the administration and see what we can do.
Thank you. That's what I was thinking. Yeah, we have a pretty good relationship with the university administration. So as you said, Mr. Young, our city manager, he has been in touch with the administration.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much for coming and speaking. I appreciate the concerns you have. Anyone else wants to speak? Mr. Dorsch, welcome. Please state your name for the record. You're a resident of College Park.
Dave Dorsch, and yes, I'm a resident of College Park. Tonight, I just wanted to mention again, as I did several weeks earlier, about the city selling the house at 4704 Calvert Road. City really does not need to be in the single-family house rental business in the city. So I, again, ask you guys to think about that seriously and see. It's not that I want to buy the property, because I don't, but the city just should not be sitting there renting this property. That's number one. Number two is, do you know how many people in the city have been here for 50 years or more? Do you know how many of the city residents that are here are 80 years or older? If you don't, you might want to find out some of those things and see what you could do to kind of, welcome those people for staying here for such a long time. Thanks.
Thank you. I believe our seniors committee probably, actually,
Oh, excuse me. That's me.
yeah, I think I stopped. I was saying that our seniors committee probably looked into that data, and you made a good point of retaining our longtime residents in College Park, because they're the one who build the community, so it's important to keep them in College Park any way you can. If there is no one, I see one resident, the name of Hussein. Let me allow him to talk. Mr. Hussein, you have 3 minutes. Please state your name and if you're a resident of College Park for the record.
My name is Hussein Wahid, and I'm working with the Advanced Technology Acceleration Initiative, University of Maryland, College Park. And I just wanted to update that the Majority Whip, David Moon, has agreed to send the Dynamic System Interactive Specifications and Standards to the Department of Labor and Industry. And I do not know exactly when that is going to happen, but I just saw him today, and he was talking to a reporter from Maryland Matters, and the Maryland Matters representative also agreed to write about this initiative, and also the confirmation of the survey results that have come from the application of this methodology that has been developed jointly and provides transformative economic efficiency. I've sent the email to all the council members and also city manager and the directors of the public services, and I spoke to the director and he was very much interested, but I would like to know, because we missed the last meeting, how I can make sure that this initiative benefits College Park City as well. Just reviewing it perhaps for half an hour or so, but also trying to implement it as feasible and becoming part of, the transfer of the knowledge base of advanced technology acceleration in the process. So whatever problems they occur, I've noted down quite a few from the ones that have been discussed, and probably there is some room to, further determine what kind of economic efficiency can be delivered as a result. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming and speaking. Seeing none, let's go to the next agenda item, which is the approval of the consent agenda. There are 2 consent agenda items. Let me read them out, then I'll entertain a motion to approve. The first one is 25G28, which is about the ratification of a new 3-year agreement between the City of College Park, Maryland, and the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, AFSCME, Local 1209C, AFL-CIO, and authorization of the city manager to sign the new agreement. And the second one is 25G31, which is the approval of letter in support of the Prince George's County Department of Public Works and Transportation, DPW&T, application to the Metropolitan Washington Council of Government Transit Land Use Connection TLC grant program for the Northern Prince George's East-West Bikeway Planning Study. Can I get a motion?
I move to accept the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstention? This consent agenda has been approved. So now I will invite the members of the negotiations, of the contract negotiations, led by our city managers, Mr. Young, and the Director of Human Services, Human Resources, Teresa Bay Pizzuti, and also our members of wonderful staff of the AFSCME. So thank you again. So what we are going to witness right now, the city staff and our union representatives, they will be signing, I would say, historic contract because this will be running for three years. And again, I want to congratulate the union and the staff on these accomplishments. And you have worked on many weeks, if not days, if not months. Thank you for doing a fantastic job. All right. Once we're going to see if their signing is done, so please let us know so that we can celebrate that. We'll be taking pictures together after the signing is done. So we'll be all gathering here, I think, behind and probably standing, if that is the right way to do. Yeah, maybe in the meantime we can all start gathering, right?
Well, they've taken a picture.
Okay. Once this done. All right, so the council can be gathering behind.
So, yeah, we're gonna have to figure this out. Okay, so first one, we'll have you guys stand, and then
Okay.
what we'll do is probably have to have you sit so that council
Okay.
can see behind, because right now you guys.
That's fine.
All right, so first, ready, 1, 2, 3. Okay, great. So, do we want to do any like shaking everyone? Let's do some shaking.
All right. Please make sure you guys smile.
Say, hey,
All right, so then I'll have you guys sit down here on the seats, and then we'll have council kind of come behind and take a picture.
Oh, you want us to come down from the dais?
No, stay
No,
here.
it's-
Stand here? Okay.
it's
Yeah, the public works guys.
Why don't you guys come up here?
You wanna come back up there?
You're promoted. You guys are promoted. Come close.
Between us?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's a nice. Come close, come close.
All right.
There we go.
Bunch in.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my goodness,
Yeah.
you got the real jacket.
Good, how are you?
There you go.
Welcome,
There you
welcome.
go.
Come on,
There you go.
If you wanna,
Get one more on
slide
the
down
side.
on
Yeah,
that
you could go on the other side.
Yeah, there we go. And then you
All
come
right.
in right here.
Thank you. How you doing?
There you go.
Angle
Thanks for
towards the
coming.
mayor. There you go. There you go. Keep on turning. Keep on turning. You got it.
There you go.
Here we go.
All right, wait, Alan, yeah, Alan, you're a little out. Wait. Okay. There we go. 1, 2, 3. Got it. All right, thank you.
Thank you so much. Sure. Thanks for coming to City Hall.
Nice meeting you too. Nice meeting you. Hey, how's it going?
Even the good ones. Oh, thank you. You're Patrick. Thanks so much for your hard work.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Take care. Thank you all.
Hey, keep repping.
Thank you. That was fun. I think it is wonderful.
Every 3 years.
We should be doing every 3 years. I don't think we have done it in the past. Yeah, this is a wonderful idea. Yeah. So the next item So the next item is about a presentation of the Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month proclamation to Ellen Tappan. And I'd like to give the floor to Councilmember Alan Hill. He is the one who actually brought this to our attention, and he worked with Ms. Tappan to make it happen. So, Minister Hill, please go ahead. The floor is yours.
Yes. So, as I mentioned earlier, that the month of March is Colorectal Awareness Month, and I want to thank Ms. Ellen Tappan for approaching the city last year and asking us to create a proclamation in honor of the colon cancer awareness, colorectal cancer awareness. Ms. Tappan approached me last month asking that we start recognizing colorectal cancer awareness at the state level. Last year, they did a national display on the mall installing, I believe it was 12760, I don't have that number with me, but flags on the mall acknowledging the number of people who will be diagnosed during 2024 with colorectal cancer. So they wanted to take that effort on the road to the states, and Ms. Tappan had requested that College Park start with this effort to bring this awareness. It is such an important campaign because colorectal cancer is very preventable and treatable. There should not be so many deaths and cancer surrounding this disease. So in the state alone, in 2025, it will be estimated that 2,620 people will be diagnosed with colon cancer. And of those 2,620, 950 people will perish unnecessarily if they had simply been screened. The age of screening has gone from 50 to now 45. And if you have any family history of colon cancer or any other kind of cancer, you need to know your risks. And if you have any immediate family members, for instance, my mother was 35 when she contacted stage 3 colon cancer. And when I turned 35, unbeknown to me that I should have been started testing 10 years before that, my doctor asked me what age was my mother when she was, had colon cancer. I said 35. I said, how old are you now? 35. You're 10 years too late. And every year, every 5 years instead of 10 years is what somebody needs to be tested if you have the high risks, if you're in that high risk category. And usually they will find polyps. In my screening, they are removed that could have turned into cancer. So it's very, very important that we start, as soon as we can, start testing, especially if you're in the high risk category. So at this time, we'd like to present.
Right, certainly. So we'll go down and present the proclamation to Ms. Tappan. Thank you.
Ms. Tappan is a resident of District 1, so District 1 council members will be joining.
All right. What do you want us to start?
Please use a mic.
So how do you understand?
I mean, that's fine, or if you want to stand in front of the dais, whatever you like.
Over there. Oh, okay.
Very speaking.
Do you want to speak? Do you want to say a few words?
I could.
Okay. So I'm going to give the floor to Ms. Tappan to say a few words.
Good evening, Mayor, councilmen and women, city manager, fellow College Parkians, if I can call you that. I am Ellen Tappan, and I am a colorectal cancer survivor. I was diagnosed I was diagnosed at 64, don't try to guess my age. And once I was able to get back on my feet, I joined Fight Colorectal Cancer and became an advocate. I'm a 2024 ambassador and a 2025 mentor to the 2025 ambassadors. We advocate for more funding for research and bring awareness to the disease that you heard Councilman Allen said is preventable. And we want to encourage everyone to make sure that you're being screened because we are in the business of saving lives. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your advocacy and keep up the good work. So here we present the proclamation. This is the proclamation we made last week on behalf of the City Council. Thank you for your work.
Mr. Mayor, if you could please read the proclamation, I think it would be beneficial for everybody who's virtual. If you can read the proclamation, please.
I forgot to mention, we are actually doing the kickoff on Saturday, the 8th, from 11:30 to 1 out here in the courtyard. We'll have some information and promotional items out there to learn more about this disease. Oh, yes. And we will be displaying, we will be decorating the courtyard with these little blue flags. So if you want to come out and help us decorate the courtyard, place a flag out and somebody in remembrance or somebody in your family who's had to deal with colon cancer, somebody you know, a colleague, please come on out and join us in putting out this display.
Thank you. So there has been a request from my colleagues to read this out, right? One more time. Because this is so important. So I'll be reading it, and this is the proclamation we made last week. City of College Park Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month, and it reads as follows. Whereas colorectal cancer is the 4th most commonly diagnosed cancer in the U.S. and the 2nd cause of cancer death, and whereas the American Cancer Society estimates that 152,810 people in the U.S. will be diagnosed with colorectal cancer in 2024, and 53,010 will die from their disease. And whereas colorectal cancer is one of the few cancers that can be prevented with timely screening, but 1 in 3 eligible Americans are not up to date on screening. And whereas colorectal cancer is estimated to be #1 cause of death, cancer death, for those aged 20 to 49 by 2030. And whereas Black Americans are 20% more likely to be diagnosed with colorectal cancer and about 40% more likely to die from the disease than other groups. And whereas colorectal cancer is expected to account for 11% of cancer deaths among Hispanic men and 9% of cancer deaths for Hispanic women. And whereas observing Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month during the month of March provides a special opportunity to increase awareness and offer education on the importance of early dedication and screening of colorectal cancer. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the Mayor and Council of the City of College Park proclaim March as Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month and encourage residents to take charge of their colorectal health and start getting screened by age 45. Proclaimed this 18th day of February 2025. Fazil Kabir, Mayor, City of College Park, Maryland. Thank you again for your hard work. All right, we're done with the presentations, and we do not have any public hearing or possible action, but we have 2 action items, actually 3 of them. The first one is 25G29, which is about the approval of signage and parking enforcement agreement with the University of Maryland to enforce parking along with the portion of Lehigh Road located west of Baltimore Avenue, and this will be taken by our city engineer, Steve Halpern, and our city attorney, Stephanie Anderson. Mr. Halpern, welcome. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I guess many years ago, our parking enforcement used to maintain the parking lot called Sterling Place, which is now underneath the Union, they call it, at Knox. And as the properties have changed hands, the city was relieved of those responsibilities. Now that the Union is there, their parking garage entrance is off of US 1, one road called Lehigh, which fronts the Pizza King and Potbelly's. It's a 20-foot wide roadway. There's a double yellow line, and that serves as the entrance into the parking garage. And what has been happening since the Union has been open, cars have been parking in front of the Pizza King and Potbelly's. And so cars that are entering from US 1 have a clear lane, and cars that are leaving the parking lot have to go head into the cars that are coming into the parking lot because of cars parked on Lehigh Road. So this is weird. This Lehigh Road is a university road. And now that there's a problem there, the university would prefer the city to maintain parking enforcement on that short segment. And that's what this item is about, to enter into an agreement with the University of Maryland for city's parking staff to enforce parking on that short segment of Lehigh Road.
Thank you. Any question? Mr. Reg, this is in your district.
Yeah, thanks, and thank you, Mr. Halpern. So I'm familiar with those businesses because they are in my district, and I've spoken to several of the business owners. There seems to be an interest among the business owners in seeing whether there might be the possibility of any parallel parking along Lehigh Road on one side. Are you saying that there's not enough space to accommodate two-direction traffic and any parallel parking on Lehigh Road?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. So, do you know whether there is parking available for the patrons of those businesses in the Union on Knox?
I don't know.
Okay. All right. Yeah, it's a tricky area. I mean, I support us if this is the university's wish. I suppose it's and the city manager is willing to consider it. It's something that I'm certainly supportive of. But I guess, I do worry a little bit about those businesses, and the reason why is while the Union at Knox was constructed, in essence, they were cut off from everything. In fact, they were surrounded by fences for a long time, and they really struggled over the years. So now I know that they've been using that informal parking arrangement to a greater or lesser extent to be able to accommodate some of their patrons. But I also know that people are just sort of parking there who aren't necessarily patronizing those businesses. So I realize that the present status quo isn't a great solution either. I guess, I don't really see a third way forward. So I guess I support the motion, but I don't know if it's possible with city staff to facilitate a conversation with Union on Knox to make sure that those businesses have access to some parking for their patrons. Just because, like I said, there's one business there in particular. There's the pizza place that's been there for 20 years, and then there's the what is it?
Today's Hair.
Today's Hair. Been there for over 30 years, and they've really struggled at times. And you know, they're minority-owned businesses, small minority-owned businesses of the sort we want to be able to retain in the city of College Park. And whether we like it or not, parking is still an important ingredient of success for many of our businesses in College Park. So I guess I will support it, but with the asterisk that I would ask for city's assistance in getting in touch with the landlords at the Union on Knox, or thinking of ways in which we can help those business owners feel more comfortable when there is officially no parking on Lehigh Road. So,
Mr. Young, do you want to respond?
No, I appreciate that. I just wanted to point out, this is something that should have been picked up in the development review process as the application was coming through. So it was missed by Maryland Park and Planning. Obviously, we didn't call it out. DPI didn't call it out. And so as the Knox project was coming online, this particular situation, you shouldn't have allowed a garage to empty onto a street that didn't actually accommodate this particular lineup. What they would have had to have done is, and this is university property, so they were accommodating TDC. And that just goes to show another area that we have to firm up as applications are coming through, and pay a lot of attention to that. A lot of our attention on this the Knox project, as you recall, was really on Knox Road and putting the garage underground. So we'll work with TDC as well as the university. We're trying to come up with some solutions. We've also reduced the parking for the retailers to park in the city garage across the street. A number of them have taken advantage of that, and that's proved very fruitful for all of us. But happy to answer any questions.
Any other questions? I see 2 hand raised. Can we start with Dr. Estes? You probably raised your hand first. I noticed. And then Councilman Whitney, and then Mr. Hill. Sounds good.
So just piggybacking what Councilmember Riggs just shared, I think there are plenty of examples in close proximity to us where garages have provided parking for patrons of businesses. When I consider, I believe it's the Astor, where they have parking for those who are patronizing Trader Joe's. If you go further down Route 1, there is also Riverdale Park, where their garages have specific space for those who are going to retail in the area. And then further down, there is also Mix-It, where their garage that is connected has specified space. So I think where that may be able to be done, there are examples close by.
Just to be clear, a lot of the parking that you mentioned were to take care of retail tenants on their property, and so all of these businesses are not part of the Knox project, which makes it a little bit different than other situations.
Thank you. Before we go to Councilor Whitney and Councilor Hugh, I see our parking manager, Mr. Miller, Jim Miller, raised his hand. Mr. Miller, please go ahead. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Just looking at some of the information online, the Union on Knox does actually have open public parking for a fee, just like with most of the developments downtown. There is an annual fee that is charged, but they do have available parking, and the entrance to the parking garage is adjacent to the businesses in question, Today's Hair, Pizza Kingdom, and Potbelly. So that is available, but there is a fee associated with it.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Ms. Whitney?
Thank you. I think I know the answer to this question, but I just want to confirm that the city will retain any proceeds from tickets distributed in this area.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Hugh?
Yeah, my first question was already answered, but the other question I had was that, as I recall, before all this was built, what was university property a little bit further back, the university used to patrol that for parking issues. And since this is all university property, I'm wondering why are they coming to us to patrol this.
So we actually brought the issue up to the university. The complaints were coming in to us as the city. We were looking for, what are some solutions that we could come up with, having them reconstruct the roadway well beyond that point. That would definitely have to be something the university would have to look at. As you know, it's their south entrance to the university is right there as well, so there would be some issues that they would have to kind of deal with. But we recognize we certainly don't want to take away from the university's responsibilities, but we just want to make sure that we can come up with a solution that works for everybody.
Thank you. All right, any other questions? If not, I will entertain a motion. There is a motion in the motion sheet. Mr. Reg.
Yeah, I'll take the motion. I move to ratify move to approve the signage and parking enforcement agreement with the University of Maryland to enforce parking along the portion of Lehigh Road located west of Baltimore Avenue, subject to the approval of the city attorney.
Second.
Further comment, Mr. Reg?
No further comment.
Thank you. So I need to go to the community who are attending, either you are in the room or virtually. This is the time to make comments on this item. You have 3 minutes. Anyone wants to speak on this item? If you want to join and speak online, please raise your virtual hand. I'll allow you to speak. I do not see anyone. Let's come back to the council before I take a vote. Anyone wants to speak on this item from the council? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? The motion has been approved. Thank you, Mr. Halper, and thank you, Mr.
You're
Miller.
welcome.
Thank you, staff, for your work. All right. We have the second action item is about the approval of the November 2025 general election date, and this will be taken by our city clerk, Yvette Allen, and the Chief Board of Election Supervisors, BOES, Susan Homerich. Ms. Homerich, thank you for the coming. Probably this is the last time we'll be saying it before the election. Thank you for your hard work.
Good evening. You want to go first or shall I? Okay. Good evening. At a previous meeting, I was asked what incentives would be effective in increasing the interest in serving on the Board of Election Supervisors or retaining its members. The board discussed this question intensely, and we agreed that increased compensation would not be insulting, but that is not the key driver to our service. The time and effort devoted to the board's work is significant, and the recognition of that contribution by the mayor and council by entertaining the board's thoughtful and well-researched recommendations would be most encouraging. For example, regarding this special election for District 3, outside of regular board meetings, the Board of Election Supervisors will spend approximately 350 hours to carry out the special election. If these were billable contract hours at the rate of $150 an hour, pretty reasonable, the invoice would be about $52,000. You're getting free labor. We would appreciate your acknowledging the effort put into it. We can expect the citywide election to require similar tasks as we have performed for the special election, but with greater human hours expended due to the volume of the number of voters. Mail-in voting is not necessarily less expensive than our traditional methods, but again, it provides the important opportunity to increase voter participation. At the last citywide election, almost 11% of the eligible voters participated. We would like to engage more of that other 89%. In 2024, the Board of Election Supervisors was asked to research and return to the Mayor and Council methods to improve voter turnout in city election. 3 recommendations were offered, vote 16, the consideration of ranked choice voting, and the ultimate goal of all mail-in voting. The mayor and council have acted upon the first two items by considering a charter change to allow 16 and 17-year-olds to register to vote in city elections, and by putting the ranked choice voting on hold until the need arises. Vote by mail significantly improved voter participation in College Park elections in 2021. The Board of Election Supervisors provided data to the mayor and council in our September of 2024 report supporting the use of vote by mail in city election. The board wishes to keep the recommendation of an all mail-in election alive with the mayor and council for many reasons, but including the increased access to voting for those with limited schedules, limited abilities, or limited transportation options. A mail-in ballot can be deposited in a secure drop box at the voter's convenience. It can be sent by U.S. mail, or it can be voted at a single live voting station. At the January meeting this past month, the mayor and council did not accept the board's recommendation of one live voting day for the November 25 election. And so based upon instructions received at that meeting, the board makes the following recommendations. We suggest sending mail-in ballots to voters who are on the Maryland permanent voting list, because that's in the city charter, and to those who request mail-in ballots. We would like to install 6 secure drop boxes throughout the city. We would suggest one at City Hall. We would suggest one at Davis Hall, Mom's Grocery Store, at the College Park Woods Clubhouse and the Stamp Student Union, as well as somewhere in the Lakeland area, a place to be determined. And I can address that if you have questions. The return of any mail-in ballot, again, can be returned through the U.S. mail. We would like to suggest one election day of Tuesday, November 4, at the community room here at City Hall. I can't think of the name of the building, from the hours of 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. We would also like to suggest, based on your recommendation, an early voting day of Sunday, November 2nd at Davis Hall, between the hours of 11 a.m. and 4 p.m. We would require the use of an adjacent area as a break room for the reason that in its current configuration, Davis Hall is too small for our traditional setup. If we relocate the break area for the poll workers, this would allow us another 100 square feet to allow us to space out the equipment and to increase privacy for the voter. So with your approval, the city staff can begin to prepare the budget for the 2025 election. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for working on a couple of council recommendations, especially on the 2 items, the adding more drop-off boxes, which looks like you have done a lot. Thank you. The College Park Woods Clubhouse location and also Lakeland community, and also adding another polling station for the early voting at Davis Hall. Thank you for both of them. Okay. Any questions or comments? I see Mayor Pro Tem first, and then Dr. Espers, and then Mr. Hill.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you again for coming tonight to present your final report, and also for the Board of Election as a whole making the considerations about another day of voting, especially for early voting at Davis Hall, is truly appreciated. And also, thank you for the ballot box consideration for College Park Woods. I know our residents will be very, very happy to have that.
We hope so. And again, that is to increase availability.
Yes, because the residents in the West, we do now and then like to have some perks of the city, and that will be a big perk.
Let's celebrate it.
Yes. Yes, so thank you for that. But I do have a question that came up to me from a couple of residents, and I don't know if this will be the proper opportunity to ask this question or send you the question via email in regards to provisional ballots. The question came to me regarding how are are provisional ballots counted in the election?
Is your question, how are provisional ballots counted in the
Yes.
election?
Because there is some concern that the ballots are not counted at all.
I'm sorry, what?
There's information floating around out there that the provisional ballots are not counted.
The canvass of the votes is televised. Anybody can watch it. It is a public affair.
We will hold this counting the canvas of this this March special election, and in November, we will do a Zoom. We will have it in public here in the council chambers. And regarding your question, there's many different reasons why someone would have to vote provisional. We do, if we can't find them in the voting polls, we will call the county. If we can't get a hold of the county right then and there, we would call the county the next day, find out if they are a registered voter. If they are a registered voter and they just didn't make our polling books, they would be counted. If they switch districts in between a general election and they were registered for a District 4 and now they live in District 1, unfortunately, if they voted for District 4, the council members will not be counted, but the mayor will still.
Okay.
So there's many different reasons why someone would vote a provisional. I didn't look up the numbers, or I would have looked up the numbers from our last election. I would have told you how many voted provisionals and how many were accepted, but I didn't.
No, and I apologize for not sending the question sooner, but I received this question walking out the door. But I guess the concern was, again, the rumors going around that ballots were trashed.
No, none of our
And I'm not being accusatory, but that is something.
We still have them.
Not this election but just something in general that.
We would never do that.
Okay. So
And
I said I would ask
by
a
law,
question.
we keep them until our next election.
Okay.
Thank
That's.
By law.
By law. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And just to further that point, they are locked in a secure room. They're not just left in an open filing cabinet.
sealed.
Yeah, they are guarded.
No, and I knew that, but I had to ask a question because 4 or 5 of my residents asked me, and I think that just shows that the integrity of the process, and that will help residents to trust the process.
That is the ultimate goal. Integrity and transparency, and we want people to participate in the process. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying. We'll go to Dr. Esters, and then Mr. Hugh, and then Mr. Hernandez.
Yes, I'd like to thank you for all of the work that's been done regarding elections and the considerations that you've discussed as part of the Board of Election Supervisors, and specifically for the early election day on the Saturday. I believe it's the Sunday, I'm sorry.
Sunday.
On the Sunday, because I think it is a way to be inclusive. So it's appreciated. I do note that there has been lots of back and forth about the ability to use Davis Hall and how difficult it is, a space. And I do recall us talking about alternative spaces and wanted to find out if there had been any consideration of alternate spaces. And I do hear what you're talking about as far as an alternative to make it work. But did any of these other spaces work, or did they not?
When the Board of Elections, when we got together for our meeting after the February 18th meeting, it was suggested to us to have a special an election on a Sunday, early voting or the election on a Sunday. In order to have it at a Sunday, we had to have it at Davis Hall. Most of the churches, it would not work in that area. And we wanted something completely down in the one in District 1 and 2, well, 1 and 4. So we went with Davis Hall.
The other option that was suggested was the VFW Hall on Route 1. And we were not comfortable having an election in a place that served alcoholic beverages. It just didn't seem to be on, it didn't seem to be necessary if we had the option of Davis Hall with additional space provided.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for looking into them.
Yeah.
Mr. Hugh and then Mr. Hernandez.
Yes, thank you very much. So, in the interest of keeping this short, I'll just get straight to the point. I do like the compromises that we've had, that you suggested of having early voting in North College Park at Davis Hall. However, the polling hours, it seems to be rather abbreviated. And it was requested that we possibly go from 10 to 5 instead of 4 to 6.
Instead of 11 to 4.
10.
So
11 to 4.
11 to 4.
We're suggesting 11 o'clock until 4.
Right, and
Right.
he's making a different recommendation.
I'm making a request for 10 to 5. instead of-
just to extend a little bit, starting early, ending 1 hour late. That's I suggest.
Considering the number of voters who do come to early voting days, I don't see the need for that.
Well, we won't have a polling day at Davis Hall. So I would expect more people
We will
might.
have a polling day at Davis Hall.
Early polling.
No, not on, it'll be the, so I'm asking if that early voting day, instead of being 11 to 4, being 10 to 5. Another resident had asked for it to be from 9 to 6. So again,
Why don't we just go from 12 to 12?
That is a council decision
Okay.
that you would make.
Okay, thank you for the guidance. Okay, is this on the same topic?
Yeah.
Miss? Okay, please.
And I appreciate my colleague, Mr. Hugh. I think one of the things the Board of Election Supervisors was saying as far as timing and the use of another day for election judges, that's wear and tear on them. And I think they were trying to strike a balance by doing Sunday from 11 to 4 to give the opportunity, but you also have a ballot box at Mom's, Organic,
Davis Hall.
and at Davis Hall, and we just need to educate and work with our residents to go to those ballot boxes, in addition to having the Sunday the 2nd and Election Day. I think they really have come up with a compromise that we should.
Yeah, it's still, so the election day, what is the hours? 8 to 8,
8
right?
to 8.
8 to 8. So if,
On a Tuesday?
yeah, I know I don't have the vote, but if you ask my opinion, instead of going that far, maybe you could only extend 1 hour in some way.
They can use
Starting a
the
little
ballot
early. Okay, Mr. Hernandez, please go ahead.
Hi, first off, thanks for finding, I know before it wasn't an option, and you guys really made a way out of no way with regards to Davis Hall. We really appreciate you all listening to the council. I think just to help relay our residents' requests, right? And I recognize that it seems that we're doing a lift by just adding an additional day. We want to be responsive to the residents that we represent. And the request, just in generalities, was, is there a way to explore extending the hours? Whether it be from 10 to 5 or start at 10 and go to 4? I mean, is there any sort of compromise option?
This is definitely a council's decision. You do have to remember, though, we don't just open the doors at 10. We will be there 2 hours early, 2 hours later. So I just wanted to let you know that, but this is definitely your decision.
Understood.
So it's the Board of Elections plus maybe 10 other judges sitting in that small room.
Sure.
No air circulation, setting up and closing and election time.
Understand.
Okay, I just wanted you to.
I hear you. I just trying to help. All we're doing is relaying the requests, right?
Thank you.
That as any good representative would do. So thank you, Councilmember Hugh. I will just ask, just out of pure curiosity, last time, it wasn't possible at all, and now it is. What was the triggering point for it to be possible to vote? I just want to know for a
It
matter of.
wasn't that it wasn't not possible. The Board of Elections, they wanted more of a mail-in vote, and then have one election day per our charter for people to come in person. They're trying to maneuver voting for vote by mail.
I see.
Not in person.
Okay.
It's not that Davis Hall Davis Hall cannot be used as a complete polling place from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m.
And it's not good for a
just too
working
small.
day.
And on a Tuesday, due to the fact that it's dangerous.
Heavy equipment coming in and out.
No, I
There's
understand.
equipment coming in, people walking and so forth. I'm not saying that our drivers are.
No, it's a safety hazard.
Well,
For the
no,
drivers and for the voters.
And I think I heard those concerns the last time. I was just asking if something had changed, and was it just shifting it to Sunday?
So what drove our final recommendation is an urge to compromise.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate it, and it's truly helpful that we can go back and forth
Thank you
and
for
have that
listening.
conversation.
I appreciate that.
Not only for us, but for our residents as well.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Ms. Whitney.
Thank you. I also want to thank you for your spirit of compromise and the Board of Election Supervisors for really listening to the requests from our District 1 colleagues, and I appreciate their advocacy for their residents. I have to say, though, this city is 5 square miles. It's not big. We have a long line of people downstairs who came from, way outside of the city and drove to vote here today and fought traffic and all of that other stuff. It is not hard to vote in College Park. It is not hard to drive to the short distance you need to drive one day every 2 years to vote in College Park. I think this compromise is sufficient, and I think it was generous considering the amount of time and effort it takes from the Board of Election Supervisors, and I thank you for that.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. So I see in the motion sheet, the motion does not include the timing when that. So that's fine. So we can still approve it, and I believe the BOS will. Are you still going to meet and?
Yes, we will meet on Thursday this week.
Thursday again. So the conversation, the discussion we had on the days about the voting hours, you could still consider it.
We're pretty fixed on 11 to 4.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mayor, we would like to go ahead and set the times
Yes,
as well.
thank you.
Today,
Yeah.
we need to start getting
Ms. Allen?
vendors and letting them know
Okay.
what times, and that would be included in the price and the
Yes.
cost to us.
Yes,
So-
Mr. Mayor, can I go ahead and call for the question, please?
Please go ahead.
Can I move to approve Tuesday, November 4th, 2025 as the official general election day at City Hall and Sunday, November 1st as the early voting day at Davis Hall, and approve the purchase of 3 ballot drop boxes at a cost of $9,481.25.
Second. All right. Any further comment?
Mr. Mayor, no, thank you again to the Board of Election Supervisor, to the team, to Ms. Allen. I think this is a great compromise, not only for the Sunday, but for the city. And we will, as council members, do our part to help educate and move our residents to doing what you're asking.
If I can add one more comment, please.
Oh, I can do that.
No, the motion doesn't have it.
Okay, and just to clarify, and thank you, Councilman Whitney, the times for Election Day on Tuesday, November 4th, will be here at City Hall Community Room. It will be 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., and early voting will be Sunday, November the 2nd, Davis Hall, 11 a.m. to 4 p.m.
And Ms. Mackey, you are fine with the amendment. Okay, thank you. And you made your comments. So let's go to the audience. If you have any comments on the motion, if you are online, please raise your virtual hand, and we'll allow you to speak. Seeing none, let's come back to the council. Anyone wants to speak before we vote?
I do, Mr. Mayor. One last comment. I want
Please
to thank
go
Councilman Whitney for her comments. As a body, it's incumbent upon us to set the tone and to educate our residents. Change happens. Change is sometimes for the best. And in this incident, it is. And we all collectively together will help our residents understand that this is to help us move forward and to increase voter engagement. That's all, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Reg?
Just a quick note, and it's only somewhat germane, so I apologize if it's derivative, but the special election in District 3 is ongoing now, and vote by mail, the city's getting down to a science. Even with the twist in District 3 where we required an application for a mail-in ballot, the mail-in ballots arrived timely, they were easy to use, dropped them in a Dropbox this morning. So, really, I just encourage us all to stay open-minded about the full transition to an almost complete mail-in sort of operation for voting in this city. I know that there are legal concerns about going completely mail-in, but I think we need to continue to move in that direction. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Mackey?
I want to thank the Board of Election Supervisors and all the people and the staff that worked on this and the compromise. And I want to encourage our residents to get out and vote and support the judges, because there will be opportunity if you would like to serve as an election judge in our city. It's a great opportunity, and that you could see how the vote is done. And I know that there is integrity in the vote. Everything is locked, and everything is counted, recounted, and counted again. And no ballot is ever discounted. And the judges don't go home until every T is crossed and every I is dotted. So I just wanted to really assure the residents that College Park is basically a leader in this county as far as the vote. And we have been pioneers. We were some of the first to use electronic before the county. And that says a lot about our Board of Election Supervisors and our staff. And so I would just like to encourage our residents to vote and to trust our staff and our Board of Election Supervisors.
Thank you. Very, very nice comments. Any further comments before we take the vote?
If I may make one more comment?
Absolutely, please.
I apologize. In my haste earlier, I forgot to acknowledge the work put in by the Office of the City Clerk. 200 hours were devoted to the District 3 special election. That's a heavy lift for two people. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Allen, for your very hard work. Appreciate that. All right. If you're ready, let's take the vote. I don't think I need to do a roll call. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? So the motion has been approved. Congratulations. Thank you for your hard work.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate your work and the work of the members of BOES.
It was our honor.
Keep up
Thank you.
the good work. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, so we have one last action item, which is the introduction of the ordinance of the Mayor and Council of the City of College Park, amending City Code Chapter 125-10, Housing Regulations, Chapter 141-6, Refuse, Toter and Recycling Containers, and Chapter 110, Fees and Penalties. And this will be taken by our Director of Public Services, Jatinder Coker, and the City Attorney, Ms. Anderson, who is going to take floor is yours. Mr. Coker, I think this is the fourth time, is it?
Yeah.
We cannot go further. So
Okay. Good evening, Mayor and council members and residents of College Park. The item beforehand is regarding introduction of an ordinance for amendments to Chapter 125-10 and 141, Chapter 141-6A and C, and also Chapter 110-2, that deals with the fees and penalties. At the council's last meeting on February 11th, council directed the staff to go forward with providing the final acceptable language ordinance regarding these 3 sections and bring it back for the introduction. And the ordinance itself is attached also with the documents. If there are any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Thank you. Thank you for working on the changes. Ms. Anderson, do you want to add anything?
Nope, everything's good.
Thank you.
I'll
Thank
be
you for
happy to
work
answer
in
questions.
drafting the languages. Mr. Rigg, you are the one who brought this
Yeah,
up.
I was going to move the motion. It doesn't look like.
There you go.
All
That
right,
makes
great.
my life easy.
I move to introduce ordinance.
Excuse
oh,
me,
sorry.
Councilmember Rick.
I
there's a-
defer. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I just have a quick question that I want to make sure, without a shadow of a doubt, which I think that it's covered. But on page 061 of the packet, which is page 5 of the written report, it says, if the topography of a property does not permit the storage of refuge carts and recycling carts in accordance with section A hereof, the owner or occupant shall make a request to the City Department of Public Services to place said carts for storage in an alternate inconspicuous location. So that will cover people that, remember I said it in our first meeting, that we have many people that are on a hill, and it's very hard for them to be taking it up and down off the hill. That's why this part is in our ordinance, right, to cover people like that. Correct. I know that, do you remember me asking that
Yes,
question?
yes.
Okay.
Ms. Anderson.
Because there's a street in College Park Woods that almost the whole street is up like this, and, I mean, the houses are up and they have to go back and forth, so just wanting to make sure.
Yes, and we
Is that-
we also met with our Director of Public Works,
Okay.
and there is a process in place, and they are aware, yes.
Okay. That's the only clarification I needed. I thank you so much.
I'm glad that you are happy with the changes. Thank you. Mr. Rigg, please go ahead. Oh, one more question, Mr. Hayo.
Just one more question. It's about the $50 fine for it. Is there any escalating or possibly of escalating if they are repeat offenders?
Right now, it is not written to escalate. It's each fine. But each day that you don't comply, it's $50.
So, to a group of residents that regularly like to offend this ordinance of using it for other purposes, $50 isn't much as pass the hat around. And so that's my only concern. It may not be effective in the long run for regular offenders.
I will say this, even if we had it every day and we wrote the citation, if we had to go to court for a municipal infraction, sometimes judges read a reasonable standard into it. So, I mean, each day adds up, but I just want to let you know, we want to change behavior, and sometimes if judges think it's too punitive, we've had the experience that they reduce it.
Thank you. Let's see how it goes, and then probably can revisit. Mr. Rigg, this is your time.
Okay, it's my big moment. So I move to introduce ordinance 25-0-01, an ordinance of the mayor and council of the city of College Park, amending code chapter 125-10, housing regulations, chapter 141-6, refuse toter and recycling containers, and chapter 110, fees and penalties, and hold a public hearing on Tuesday, April 1st, 2025.
Second.
All right, so this is the introduction, so we are not voting on this item. And then on April 1st, we'll be having public hearing, and that night, most likely, we'll be voting on it, right? All right, so we are done with all the action items. Now we are going to the 2 work session items we have, and the first one is the redevelopment plan by the MARC zoning from RTO LE to RTO PD for the redevelopment of the student housing facilities which involves the raising of the College Park Towers and construction of the new student housing located at 4330 Hartwick Road and 4313 Knox Road. Planning Board hearing tentatively scheduled for March 27th, 2025. This will be taken by our Director of Planning and Community Development, Miriam Bader, and our Senior Planner, Mr. Carlos Nunes. Mr. Nunes, floor is yours. Welcome.
Hello, everyone. My name is Carlos Nunes. I'm the Senior Planner for the City College Park. I want to say good evening and thank you very much for the opportunity to be here with you tonight. Tonight I'm going to walk you through the rezoning request for the Mark at College Park, covering the project overview, how it aligns with city plans. The applicant is with us today, and they're seeking rezoning to allow the redevelopment of the site. Currently, there are 2 aging condominium buildings that primarily house University of Maryland students. The proposal is to replace these 2 modern, high-density student apartment buildings supporting the city vision for transit-oriented development near the university. On the slide that you'll see there on the board, the location is roughly about 1 block from campus. Up top, you'll see the red portion is where the Mark would be located. On the left, it's outlined in yellow, and then you have an architectural rendering at the bottom. We held a neighborhood meeting on September 19th, 2024 at College Park City Hall to gather feedback from the community. A summary of that meeting is included in the application. We also held a meeting on July 26th to present the zoning request and receive feedback from teams specializing in urban design, subdivision zoning, and environmental planning. So there are essentially 3 steps in the development process. The first is the rezoning review, which is currently underway tonight. Next is the preliminary plan of subdivision, where we evaluate public infrastructure and traffic impacts, and then finally the detailed site plan. The chart that you'll see up there, and also in the staff report, will show you that the site is currently zoned RTOLE, and the request is to rezone it to RTOPD. It's surrounded by other student housing and retail, including Terrapin Row and Aspen Heights to the west, University of Maryland student housing to the north, College Park Shopping Center to the east, and the Standard at College Park to the south.
Could I interrupt very quickly? I'm so sorry. Is there any way we can get this displayed on
Yeah,
our screens here or
I think
up here? It's very,
The staff is working on
oh, they're working on it. Okay, thanks. Sorry.
Oh, no problem, no problem.
Thank you.
I apologize, but I think so the project supports key planning goals by aligning it with the Prince George's 2035 general plan, which promotes high-density mixed-use development, and the U.S. sector plan, which encourages a walkable, student-oriented community with sustainable infrastructure elements. In terms of the public benefits, the project includes a central pedestrian promenade featuring seating areas, public art, and bicycle amenities, creating an inviting space for the community. Ancestors Lane will be extended as a 24-foot wide public street with sidewalks, landscaping, and mural walls, improving site circulation and visual appeal. The project will provide a pocket park with native plants, seating, and walkways supporting biodiversity and offering a relaxing public space. The design also includes energy-efficient systems and water-saving features, helping the city advance its environmental goals. In terms of the setbacks, the key changes that are outlined, in the proposed modifications, the key changes are increasing the density from 140 to 150 units per acre, similar to nearby projects, reducing front, side, and rear yard setback to support an urban walkable design. In terms of setbacks, the reduced setbacks bring buildings closer to the sidewalks, creating a more engaging, pedestrian-friendly environment. This table that you see here on the board compares the existing zoning standards, the proposed zoning, and the sector plan guidelines. The key differences highlighted in green for the build-to-line moves closer to the street from a minimum of 15 feet down to 0 feet, consistent with urban design goals. For the front yard depth, we're reducing it from 10 feet to 0 feet, allowing buildings to sit closer to the sidewalk, creating a more urban, walkable feel. And then the side yard, also highlighted, reduced from 5 feet to 0 feet, maximizing the building footprint and supporting a continuous streetscape. This project must follow the updated 2024 Woodland and Wildlife Ordinance, which sets a 15% conservation threshold. The site does not qualify for an exemption, so conservation must happen directly on the property. While the College Park Tree Ordinance doesn't apply to commercial properties like this, staff encourages the applicant to meet its standard as a community benefit. To conclude, this rezoning will allow for a higher density and reduced setbacks, provide public amenities beyond standard requirements, align with nearby student housing and sector goals. For recommendations, after careful review, we strongly, we're leaning towards approval of the rezoning request because we believe the project is consistent with city plans and delivers important community benefits. Before preliminary plan approval, we recommend installing 6 to 10 foot wide sidewalks on Knox and Hartwick roads, incorporating feedback from the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee into the Bicycle and Pedestrian Impact Statement. We suggest raised crosswalks at key locations, including Delta Sigma Phi, Dunkin' Donuts, 4301 Hartwick Road, and other areas as needed. We also propose artistic crosswalks featuring community-inspired designs. We also recommend extending curbs and adding pedestrian signage, painting sharrows on Hartwick Road, extending bike paths to connect the university to the trolley trail. Before detailed site plan approval, we recommend adding at least 3 green building features: street furniture like benches, trash bins, and pedestrian lighting, screening for mechanical equipment to enhance the streetscape. The project must submit a tree conservation plan showing at least 15% woodland conservation, comply with the city's tree ordinance, and last, obtain FAA, MAA approval for building height due to its location in the aviation policy area. Thank you for your attention. This concludes our PowerPoint presentation. Staff and Chris Hatcher and his team will be happy to answer any questions.
Does council have questions? Looks like they have before we bring the applicants. I see Ms. Whitney and then Mr. Hernandez.
They might,
Yes, ma'am.
yeah, okay. My first question, and some of these might be too specific at this point, but I'm just gonna go ahead and ask. My first question is on page 71. It shows the access road cross-section, and the illustration seems to indicate that the traffic is all one way. Is that two-way traffic going through that crossroad? That would be my first question. My second question is, will there be a designated area for Lyft and Uber pickup and drop off as well as delivery? Because we see a lot of problems in the area related to those kinds of features not being designed into the building. And then we're left, especially when we're trying to create a more pedestrian-friendly, bike-friendly city, we're left with a lot of problems that these great buildings that have been built are causing with our bike lanes. So I just want to make sure that that is considered. And then my final question is really, I think, for our staff. For the BPIS, I love that we're going to the Bike Pedestrian Advisory Committee for feedback, but I wonder if those suggestions were also shared with the council member in that district prior to being brought forward, because that is definitely a request I've made before, or I would prefer to see that information shared with the council members from that district when a development is going in.
Ms. Beda?
Yes, okay, so regarding the road, the developer only owns part of that section. So they'll develop part of it, and they'll do it as a pedestrian connection for right now. and then the other half is owned by the shopping center.
Okay.
So at the time that that redevelops, so it's designed to be two-way at the time that both sides are developed. Regarding, the Uber drop-off, that will be something we'll look at detailed site plan.
Okay.
So we'll look at that. Regarding the BPIS, BPAC, so that report was included in the packet. So everyone can review it, and then we still have time, because prior to preliminary plan, then that's when we have to narrow down what we're gonna recommend for the BPIS. So yes, it's included in the packet, so please review it and read it.
Got it. So seeing it at this point still gives us time, and we'll have that same opportunity going forward.
Yeah, you still have time, because this is a three-pronged process. So this is just the rezoning right now, then will come preliminary plan, and at preliminary plan, that's when we narrow down what we want for the BPIS. And as council, if you guys could rank it in order of, because there's a cost cap, so they'll do it up until the cost cap. So whatever you feel is the highest priority should be on the top, and then we'll rank it accordingly.
Excellent. I just remember in the past, we would hear about it at a later stage, and then it would be too late to do anything about it. So I
Right.
really appreciate this kind of moving it forward.
Right. No, I heard you, and as soon as BPAC presented that report, then, I attached it to the materials, so we have time.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mr. Hernandez probably, right? Is this next?
Oh, no, I think it was
Mr. Hill? Okay, please go ahead.
Thank you. And this might be a little bit early in the process, but I to mention this, but with all new development, there's going to be three things that I always ask for. And one is a green statement. So I'm happy to see that a green roof was an option that was listed in this development as for having a green statement. The other is I know that an ordinance passed at the county level, and I don't know if it's in full effect yet, but it has to do with EV parking. So if we can address the upcoming standards of EV parking rates, I requested that takes into consideration. And the third thing I will always ask is that there be a percentage of affordable housing built into this. I think that all new development carries a responsibility of sharing the burden of affordable housing. So I will make those requests.
Is that
Yeah.
something our applicant can respond to? Affordable housing?
Yes, I'll have the applicant respond to it, but I have heard you, and we did mention that to the developer, so he's aware of that.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Rigg, you haven't spoken yet. This is in your district.
Yeah, most of my questions are for the applicant.
Oh, nice. Very nice. Any other question for staff?
I have some questions for staff, but Councilmember Mackey. Okay. So just newer to council. So and we're talking about the approval of changing the zoning. What is the biggest difference between the zoning of our RTOLE and the existing zoning?
Okay, so we have a brand-new zoning ordinance that just recently got put into action. So what the applicant wanted to do is use the former zoning ordinance, which was the sector plan zoning ordinance. So to bring it into compliance with the sector plan zoning ordinance, he asked to change the zoning to PD, which means planned development. So the base zone, I hope this isn't too, is changed. That's what changed from the ordinance. All the development around it was built under the sector plan. So what they are requesting with the planned development zone is just to change two standards. One is the density. They're asking to increase it from 140 dwelling units to 150. And if, Carlos, if you can go back to that chart, that table.
Give me a second.
Oh, sorry. You'll see that it coincides with what the development is around it, because that used the sector plan.
So just that one difference?
And the other one was the setbacks. Yep. And the setbacks will comply with what the sector plan recommended. So his two changes are in accordance with what the sector plan had for that property.
Okay. I don't know what setbacks are, but I'm glad that we brought up what the 140 to 150 units. And just out of curiosity, right now it's 140 units, and those are condominiums, right? Like normal, like living spaces.
Yeah, right now that building is condominium. I don't know the density of that.
Sure.
The new standard is 140, and there's a chart.
Yeah, it's not coming up. You want me to read off the?
It's
chart?
okay. I mean, I'll just transition to the next piece because this is kind of important. So if it's 140 units, one can assume that they're like standard homes because some people buy condominiums to live in them and rent them out. 150 units, when I hear a student housing project being proposed, first, and I'll ask the applicant some of these questions as well. I go under the understanding that in per unit in a student housing project, sometimes they charge by the beds, or they'll house students 6 to a room or 4 to a room, where that's not necessarily the case in a condominium. Is just per the zoning, is that allowed in a in this 140 to 150 transition?
Correct, yeah,
Okay.
yes, it's permitted. The zoning ordinance doesn't differentiate between bedrooms, you know what I'm saying? It's dwelling units.
Right, it's a
So-
work.
So it doesn't tell you how many bedrooms you can have.
So just to be very clear to everyone who's actually watching this, that's you'll see a difference in the amount of people that live in a particular high density unit from a condominium to like a student housing project.
Right.
It's potentially possible. Sorry.
Correct,
Okay.
yes. Student housing is usually, you can tell it's student housing because it's rented per the bed.
Mhm.
But this condominium is majority student
I
living in
understand
it.
that. I like, or somebody buys a house, a part, and then they rent them out. I understand that. But that also brings me to the third point that I have. I know I asked you this online, but just how many condominiums do we have in College Park?
We do not have a lot.
Just
It's-
a number?
it's like 3, I think.
Okay.
3 besides this one.
And how many student housing units do we have in College Park?
And yeah, and I sent you in that email, I think it was 15.
It's 15. And just making sure that the entire public knows what it is that we're looking at and understanding that from the city's perspective, we've explored. I'll say it because I get the sense that we're super saturated with student housing units. I haven't been shy about this. I'm encouraged that there's a developer here to work with us to invest in our community, but I appreciate that they went out and looked at the different goals that we had with trying to build to a certain design. But what I'm discouraged about is, we're looking, and we've been very clear about our priorities to build out affordable housing projects. And we'll get into the questions with the applicant here in a second. But I think if I can just ask city staff to consider that, like right now, we have something that exists that we're trying to strive to build out, this third spaces type of dwelling units. And now we're having this conversation to rezone, to demolish what we have existing, to build something that, if you look around, you could throw a rock and hit it, right? There's a lot of student housing, but.
Yes, we have expressed that concern to the developer, and I think he wants to respond to that tonight.
I can't wait.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a good questions. Ms. Mackey and then Ms. Audi. Yeah, she was probably before Ms. Audi.
Oh, I can go after you. Oh, okay, all right. I'll be brief. I just have a few questions for the city staff. Thank you. So we have managed to do something to get the trees planted in our actual city on the property, correct? Right? I thought.
Oh, yes, in that the tree conservation ordinance, they need to plant it
them.
on,
Yes,
on
and
the property.
I wanted to just thank you. That's very big, that I have been pushing for that at the last couple. I also wanted to know, what steps are being done to protect the Guilford Run stream? Will there be, I didn't see it, and I have to admit that a lot of this building stuff, it goes over my head, but like the runoff, into, like, I want to make sure that we're being very cautious about the runoff into the Guilford Run.
I see what you're saying, the stormwater.
The stormwater.
Okay, so we'll be reviewing those stormwater plans when they're gonna be submitted, so.
Okay, so you'll kind of be aware that that's something to
Right.
be careful on.
Yes.
So I think my last question for you, Mrs. Bader, is, has there been the consideration of the faith needs of a lot of the people that live in the College Park Towers? Does the developer know that there are people of the Orthodox Jewish faith that specifically live there? Because Erica can probably explain it better than I can. I just want to make sure, and I'll let her do it after Dr. Esther's, but I just wanted that I had a student approach me, like, I guess last year maybe, about the fact that the only place that he can live in is the College Park Towers because of faith, which I don't completely understand, which I apologize
Right.
that I don't know all the particulars about, but.
Right, no, I did talk to the Jewish community representative,
Okay, great,
and I
great.
fully understand it.
Okay, great,
What
thank
it
you.
is during the holidays and on the Sabbath, you can't use electricity.
Right.
So if they have the key fob only, that will cause difficulty. But I
Right.
was talking to
That's what it was, yes.
Yeah, I was talking to the building inspector, and you know, and it seems like for safety purposes, it's better if you have a manual override. You know, to have a regular key and not just rely on the electronic, because what if the power goes out?
Okay.
So
So you're aware of all this?
Yes,
Thank you
yes,
so much.
yes.
I wanted to make
Yes,
sure because.
and we've talked to the developer about that too. I don't think that they're opposed to have a manual override, so you'd have a regular key
Okay.
too, and not just rely on that. For safety for everyone.
Okay, thank you for answering
Thank
my
you.
questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Esters, then I'll go to you.
Ms. Bader, and Mr. Nunez, I did have a question, and maybe it's, this is too soon in the process, or I'm not sure if this is related to the rezoning, but I didn't see anything in here about a traffic study, given the increased density and the proximity to Baltimore Avenue, so I wanted to ask about that.
Yes, the traffic study will be required as part of the preliminary plan, so that's their next stage.
Thank you. It's too early then. Ms. Arden.
Hi, I worry about echoing a lot of the council members up here, but I think it's important to say that as the student representative, and I believe I do speak for all students when I say this, we have too many luxury apartments. There's having this in place of one of the only affordable housing places in College Park completely overrides all of the work that we've been doing for affordable housing in College Park. While student subsidies may not always be feasible, tearing down affordable housing completely overrides that, and that would be a feasible option to keep something like this, even if that's not in your control. Bringing in another luxury apartment when there already are 15, and on South Campus alone, there's just no place for students to live outside of luxury apartment buildings. Students pay more than tuition on apartment buildings because they have to, especially when students don't have a car. And also to echo what Councilmember Mackey was saying, when Jewish students are on Shabbat, they don't have religious accommodations at most apartment buildings. Even if the MARC says they will accommodate it, it is a luxury apartment building, meaning it will have electronic locks, and not just for safety. These students can't use electricity, so they do need a manual key, and if they have to use an electric lock, it's just not going to be, this apartment building is not going to be an option for them. But just as important, the affordable housing is something we shouldn't compromise in College Park. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'm sure that our applicant will be responding to many of these questions. If there is no other questions from the council, let me invite the team, the applicant team from the MARC Thank you for patiently waiting. It's been a, it's been a while I came here. Please introduce yourself. Yeah, please have a seat. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. For the record, my name is Chris Hatcher. I'm a land use attorney here representing Landmark Properties on the redevelopment of College Park Towers. Here with me this evening is Hamilton Reynolds with Landmark Properties and Bob Keene with WDG Architecture. This council and the city is very familiar with Landmark Properties because they did develop the standard at College Park with the city's support through that entire process for over 5 years, and it's fully constructed and fully leased. You'll recognize the work that Bob has done on various projects throughout the city because WDG has worked on the Union. Well, Bob can say all the projects that he's worked on and speak to the architectural quality of all those things. And all of those have been reviewed and approved by the city of College Park over the last 10 years. Since your staff very ably described the property and some of the things, I'm going to breeze through some of these slides just to have more time for dialogue.
Thank you.
Again, the city should be fully aware of Landmark, the size of the company and the assets that they have, because one of them was in the city, is in the city. And they do purpose-driven multifamily throughout the country. Again, orientation. Coincidentally, I always loved coming to College Park and doing work because my first project about 15 years ago was in College Park. It was the domain at College Park, and even back then, the city has universally said that the student housing should be on the west side of Baltimore Avenue, in this general area. It is a testimony to the success and the consistency that the city has held that for all that time, for all these buildings to be in the exact area where you said you wanted it. Again, for orientation purposes. Again, I'm going to breeze through some of these since the city staff has addressed most of these items. Although the city staff did address the overall process, I do want to just spend just a few moments going through it because just based on my experience, the city is more accustomed to seeing preliminary plan and detailed site plans. It's not necessarily as accustomed to seeing rezoning applications, particularly PD applications. I'm not entirely sure there has been one in the city since I've been practicing, if ever. And so a lot of the questions that we have heard from the council this evening, that we have heard from some of the community members in our meeting are very valid questions. It's just really early in the process. Those questions are really primarily for a preliminary plan of subdivision and detailed site plan. And if we have our way, those items would be before you later this year. Site details, it's roughly 4.62 acres, proposing somewhere between 600 to 690 dwelling units, and we're asking for an increase in the density from 140 of the base density to 150, and the parking, although you'll see later in this presentation, we are asking for relief from the parking. It's actually relief to comply with what the base zone allows. We did provide the city with some of the illustratives which would show how the building would integrate into the existing fabric of this neighborhood that the city wanted to design. When I saw that the city staff included this in their presentation as well. And as part of the PD process, this applicant and all applicants have the ability to propose alternative standards. And so it's not just the density and it's not just the setbacks. It is also some of the vehicle stacking requirements, and that's really more of a thing that was, my understanding, was designed for commercial shopping strips as opposed to multifamily buildings. So the stacking is more accustomed to, based on our analysis, to what it would be in urban and urbanizing areas for car stacking. Parking spaces, again, we believe it was perhaps an oversight in the zoning ordinance. So all we were doing is asking for or requesting to be treated from a parking perspective the same as we would be treated if we were the base zone. And the minimum off-street parking berths for loading, since we're proposing purpose-driven multifamily housing, you don't need 2 loading spaces when all the rooms are fully furnished. This is very similar to the chart that your staff put up. It's just sort of articulating some of the more, what I would describe as building massing related development district standards. The staff did a pretty good job of describing it. We can certainly go through this a little bit more thoroughly if you'd like. We don't necessarily believe it's necessary at this point. But if council has questions, we are prepared to respond to them all to the best of our abilities. Again, just another view of the chart, to the extent that 150 dwelling units per acre seems like a lot as compared to as compared to various communities in the city that the city has reviewed and approved over the years. Comparatively, it is not. Again, this just sort of articulates the parking which I expressed. And to the public benefit features, as part of the PD process, in order to get in exchange for some of the modifications to the development district standards, an applicant is required to provide some public benefit features. Fortunately, putting aside that requirement, the city knows that Landmark always does high quality stuff, because this was not a requirement for the standard, but they did it anyway. But just articulating some of the things that we plan to do for this building. And Bob is prepared to go through some of the details of these things, but wanted to give you an overall outline of all the things we're proposing as part of the basic plan revision, the basic plan, the rezoning. And that just articulates the legal standard contained in the zoning ordinance. We learned through the standard at College Park how large of a priority Ancestors Lane was, the city road for the city. Candidly, that issue came up rather late in the process. So we were eager to jump on it as early as possible in this process to avoid some of the things that occurred during the standard process. And we very aggressively and eagerly coordinated with the city and the various transportation agencies to figure out the size of the road, what the dimensions were, and the various things associated with it, so that in a very equitable way we could do what we can, our portion of it, while allowing the remainder portion of it to be done by a subsequent developer. And at this point, I think Bob Keene is going to provide some more details regarding some of the open spaces and green spaces.
Thank you. Mr. Keene.
Good evening. Bob Kane, Managing Principal, WDG Architecture. As Chris mentioned, we've been fortunate to do a number of projects on campus and off campus. WDG was the architect for the Atworth at the College Park Metro, Union on Knox, which is behind us, Terrapin Row award-winning project that was a mixed-use student housing project, so just to name a few. So we are well versed with College Park, with the community. So with that said, looking at the graphic on the left side, You see what we're calling the Greenway. It's called the Promenade. It's got a lot of different names. But it's going to be a lush, green, shady space for the city, for obviously the students living there, for the entire community. And there's a real dearth of, I think, quality open spaces in this part of the city. And as the city density evolves, it's really been evolving from what I would call a suburban model to a more urban model. And I think this is going to be a great example of a new project that's forming better streets, safer, well-lit streets, and creating this north-south greenway, or whatever you want to call it, pedestrian passageway, is going to be a wonderful benefit to the city. It's ADA accessible, it's bike-friendly, it's got active and passive spaces. You can see on some of the landscape precedent images that we're showing, it's going to be very thoughtfully composed. And Liveland, who's the landscape architect that we're working with, they're the same landscape architect on Union on Knox. They're very, very skilled landscape architects. So if we go to the next slide. You know, this space it's going to have all kinds of furnishings, from walls to write on, to various seating arrangements, benches, tables and chairs, wayfinding, communal tables, seat walls. It's going to be this linear park. It's probably the best way to describe it. And there's 30 feet of grade change, so it's going to be unique in that it's a staircase, it's a series of ramps, it's going to be a lush garden. We talked about the tree replacement program. This is going to be just a very shady space at the end of the day, which we think will be a real benefit. If you can go to the next slide. Health and wellness, I think, is also top of mind. So accommodating bikes and things of that nature in a way that is somewhat artful is part of the plan. If we go to the next. And there's a few perspectives that we've started to generate where you start to get a sense of the scale of the space. So this is down on Hartwick Road. This is the south end that has this sort of plaza area. And as you start to move, if you go to the next slide, you're sort of in the middle of the space, and it's a bit more lush. There's lawns, there's bioretention, there's these ramps, there's these indigenous grasses and shrubs and trees that we think is going to really define a really wonderful public space. If you go to the next one. And then this is at the top, this is at Knox Road. Again, seat walls, bioretention, this wonderful shady tree canopy. You go. And this is a slide we've seen already, but you really can see the strong edges formed along Knox, formed along Hartwick. You can see the Pocket Park down in the lower right, and obviously the Greenway. And it just creates a very, very well-defined public space. And I would say the condition there today is very, very different. It's very suburban. You've got parking lots along sidewalks. It's not very conducive to north-south pedestrian movement at all. And this is quite the opposite. This will really enhance that experience. If you can go to the next slide. This is a cross-section cut through the Greenway. So you can see there's planting beds up against each building. So there's a tree line at the edges of the building. There's some bioretention between the ramps. And there's almost 50 trees, plus or minus, in this Greenway. It's going to be substantial. This is a little hard to see. There is a lighting plan. It's going to be, the lighting and safety is paramount, of course, when you're redeveloping a site of this scale. So we'll have all the proper city lighting, both direct and indirect, sort of soft and direct lighting, creating a very wonderful and safe environment. And then the Pocket Park actually gets a little whimsical. We've got beehives and public art and indigenous native plants. And so, as I mentioned, Liveland has put a lot of thought into this, and it'll be wonderful to see this actually come to fruition. And this is just another image showing some of these other elements of the pocket park. You know, representative architecture is important. Architecture forms the backdrop for our public, spaces, and the backdrop for our community. So one of the most important things that good buildings do is they meet the street well, they activate the street, and they activate public space. And so we take that very seriously, and we intend to use materials and scale that is appropriate to this neighborhood. We're looking at South Campus Commons across the street. We're looking at the Standard at the south end of the street. We're looking at our neighbors at Terrapin Row and at Union on Knox, and that is our context. And we're going to do a project that fits into that context, both from a material standpoint, a scale standpoint. And again, we're very, very focused on activating the street and the public space.
And with that, that ends our presentation. I'm going to try my best to answer all the questions that I thought I heard, and then to the extent that I haven't addressed all the questions that I thought I heard, please charge it to the head and not the heart, and could you ask me again? EV parking. Again, there was a law that passed, and it does require a certain amount of EV parking. Fortunately, before that law passed, Landmark again did the standard at College Park and provided EV parking independent of a law requiring it. And so going to provide EV parking here again. It's our intention to have people who have cars, some of them will be EVs, and they'll need to charge their cars. Have the ability to do so. And green standards, unlike, again, I believe the standard at College Park was some type of certified, MGBS certified. It was MGBS certified, and council member, I know that on several projects we've worked with each other and had to construct some type of condition pushing forward some type of green building standard in the absence of that regulation in the county ordinance. Fortunately, in the new county ordinance, there are green building regulations and that we will need to comply with. So we will comply with the laws that exist, so we don't have to go through the exercise of manufacturing a condition to get to a goal we all want to achieve. And this is where my head stopped. Please, can somebody remind me of the questions?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. First of all, thank you for coming to College Park, investing in College. We appreciate that. You've done a fantastic job. So one question I believe Councilman Hernandez asked is about the demand for student housing. Have you done any study? Like there is often hear from the community that we have a saturation point when it comes to student housing.
Yeah, I think Hamilton might be able to respond to more specific questions regarding, if there was, here's what I do know. Again, for my entire career, the city of College Park has said they wanted student housing in a very specific location. And now that student housing is occurring in that very specific location, it would seem sort of, it sort of sends a different message to the market that after 20 years, without any passage of a plan, because that was in the 2002 plan, there was in the 2010 plan, it's referenced in the 2035 plan about density and all those things. Without some type of public plan disclosure to those who might want to invest in the city, it sort of sends mixed messages if the city is now suggesting that they, rightfully so or wrongfully so, that they don't want this type of investment in the location that they've said they wanted for the last 20 years. That being said, Landmark did develop the standard at College Park directly across the street. I think they can speak to the leasing success that they've had. I think they could probably also speak to some of the carryover desire for students who they can't accommodate in their building, so that they'd want to build a building directly across the street, which if there were constraints in that market, they would be competing directly with themselves.
Okay. Thank you. Please introduce yourself.
Yeah, Hamilton Reynolds with Landmark Properties. Chris nailed it on the head. We developed the standard and we've been tracking this market very closely. You know, we're not gonna build this project if we don't think the demand is there. You know, we specialize in building properties to hold for the long term. So this kind of hits on the demand aspect as well as EV and just generally wanting to build something that, you know, is great for a long period of time because we plan on holding it as long as we can. So, I mean, we found that the majority of the student housing projects in the area are full. They're pre-leasing well for the next academic year, and you know, we see that the demand is there for this
Thank you. Project. Good to know. We can tell the community. Mr. Rigg, you've been patiently waiting. Thank you.
Thanks, and thanks for coming to present this this property and this proposal to us tonight. I have had some preliminary conversations, albeit not with the development team. I've had them with other stakeholders kind of in this community, just out of a spirit of disclosure. A few questions just to help me baseline about the status quo. What is the current density of the College Park towers? So you're proposing to go to 150 units per acre. What's the current density? Or you can just tell me from the status quo, how many units total to how many units total would you propose if the zoning change gets approved?
So currently there are 205 units at the College Park Towers, and we're proposing, while the design is not finalized, what we're proposing is from 600 to 690.
Okay. And how many bedrooms are in those? Are those one-bedroom units? I'm not familiar with the format of those units.
Yeah, it ranges. I don't have the exact unit mix of the. Are you talking about currently or the?
Yeah, currently.
Future?
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I'm not positive the total mix, but it ranges from 1 bedrooms to I believe 3 bedrooms.
Okay, thank you. And how many owners are there in the current condo complex?
I don't know that off the top of my head. It's close to 100, I think. There's a lot of multi-unit owners though.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah. And do you happen to know how many owner-occupied units there are?
Very few, but I'm not positive that number either.
So would you stipulate then that it functions essentially as a student housing apartment complex as it is? Okay, thank you. What is the rent range, do you know, on a per bedroom basis for?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Could you get back to staff with that information and we can?
Sure.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. What would be your alternative if the zoning change is not ultimately approved by the county council? What would and it stays at the current zone, which is to say the base zone? What would be your approach to under those circumstances?
If we do not get the zoning change,
would you walk away, or would you consider a reconfiguration of the current project or modifications in some ways? Because 140 base to 150 base is, I mean, I'm not a smart guy, but I think that's 10 units per acre, which is probably what, about 60 units. So, or how many units is it total?
It's about 40.
40 units per total. So would you reconfigure on site? Would you think about it differently, or would you walk away? What would your plan be?
yeah, I mean, I can't speak to that exactly what we would do. We wouldn't walk away immediately for sure. We're gonna try and, get this project done. So yeah, we would have to go back to the drawing board and see what we can do.
Okay, fair enough, thank you. And one last question, and it was specifically about the design on the Greenway. So I was intrigued by the Greenway. I think it's really cool. It looks like you have a ziggy-zaggy path because of the grade change from Knox to, what is that, Hartwick?
That's right.
You mentioned there's going to be a lot of vegetation in there, but also these are pretty tall proposed buildings. Is there going to be sufficient light to be able to accommodate, that level of greenery and that relatively narrow a space with sort of the shadows on the site?
Yeah, we feel pretty confident. I mean, the fact that it's north-south orientation means you'll get quite a bit of daylight throughout the day in that space.
Okay.
So, if it were east-west, it would be a different conversation. But the fact that it's north-south, it actually gets a lot of light.
Okay, that's helpful.
It is a wider. Sorry. It is a wider area than it looks on paper. I don't have the width of it, but it's, what do you say?
I think it ranges from, I think, 50 in the middle, and it's chamfer, so it actually splays out to like 80 feet wide, I think, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so what you also heard Bob mention during his presentation is that another team member is Liv Land, who are pretty sophisticated landscape architects. And so to the extent that those types of questions and those types of concerns come up, we can make sure that our team is available and coordinate with your staff on some of the vegetation to ensure that those concerns don't become issues.
Okay. And then one last clarifying question. You mentioned a term of art, I believe, called vehicle stacking, which I could only speculate about what it actually means. I assume it means not actually stacking vehicles on top of each other, but
only in New York.
Perhaps it does. Could you tell us what that means and what the upshot is?
Yeah, I would think about it less as horizontal stacking and more of, well, excuse me, less of vertical stacking, more as horizontal stacking. So how many cars can fit into a certain space before it starts to move and stuff like that. So in a commercial shopping strip, it certainly requires, they're anticipating more, but in a more urbanizing area, just think about how you're sort of driving in the city of College Park or in the city of Hyattsville or in DC. You just don't have that much space, and so you understand.
So you're talking about more narrow parking places. Is that vehicle stacking? Is that what you're referring to, or are you talking about? Sorry,
It's the depth of the drive aisle.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. The depth of the drive aisle, I believe.
So the distance from the road until you get to the parking.
Ms. Bader has raised her hand. Please come forward. Maybe use the mic.
The way I like to think of vehicle stacking is when you go to a fast food restaurant and, like, look at the Starbucks, okay, and how many cars can go behind each other. And I know Starbucks is a good example because they don't have enough stacking distance. So then it goes into, the traffic. It goes into the road. So that's a good model to think of. Or when you're at a fast food restaurant, how much before you go into the road. Now with this one, what I'm recommending with the condition is they won't have to worry that much about stacking. It's not a fast food restaurant. However, on move-in day and move-out day, I want that to be managed. So,
Thank you.
and I'm sure they would agree to that when it's move-in day and move-out day, yes, then we have to look at stacking because you don't want the cars out, so they have to hire someone to manage it. But otherwise, it's, this is not a fast food restaurant. It's not.
It's not a daily issue. It's a moving in, moving
Yeah,
out.
there's not going to be a rush hour, because we're talking about students.
Okay.
So
Thank
it's a
you for
different thing.
explaining. Yeah, that's
Sure.
why I love it.
That's helpful. And I guess, my last, I'll assert a comment because it seems appropriate in a work session, and that is to push back a little bit on you, Mr. Hatcher. I heard you suggest that it would be inconsistent for this council to cast a skeptical eye on this proposed development because what we've been supporting for 20 years is student housing. And the implication would be that if we were skeptical of support for this particular zoning change, that would be seen as a lack of support for student housing on the west side of Baltimore Avenue. Is that an accurate characterization of what you were implying?
I was merely saying that for my entire career on the west side of Baltimore Avenue in this exact location in 2 different sector plans, it's centered around student housing in this area.
Okay, so I guess then I'm curious why you raised that particular question or that particular point.
Oh, that was just in response to a question about the market and whether there was saturation.
I see.
And
Okay.
stuff like that, yeah.
That's helpful, thank you. All right. I guess, from my perspective, what we have there, and Ms. Ott articulated this, extremely well, is student housing.
Correct.
And in essence, what we have in place right now is affordable student housing. And I would guess, and I'm fairly certain that if we had information on what the rents are, we would see a lower per bed or per bedroom basis than we would a lot of competing newer products. I recall a few years ago when I first started on the council, there was a lot of sort of like wailing and gnashing of teeth about luxury student apartment complexes, and people said, well, the prices are too high. And then a friend of mine brought me a copy of the Prince George's County Gazette that spotlighted a new luxury apartment complex that was then built in the 1960s called Spring Hill Lake up in Greenbelt. And it was trumpeted as a luxury apartment complex. And this person's point was, it was built as luxury, but now it is very much workforce housing.
Yeah.
And the difference between luxury housing as it is built, at least in market rate housing, and workforce housing, at least in multifamily, is often age. And so what we have right there, an age of plant, and amenities that are on site that are in good working condition. And what we have on site right now is an example of pretty good market rate affordable housing that will be difficult to replicate. And if it is gone, it is gone. And so, as a policy matter, I think this council has to grapple with that and has to figure out whether there are ways in which we can encourage affordable housing for student residents in ways, in other ways. I think this council would be tempted to, at least some of us would be tempted to say, no, we actually kind of like that it's older, it doesn't bring as much of a tax base to the city, but it provides other social benefits, especially to our student residents in its current configuration. And so if we were to, for example, support a change in zoning to accommodate, this type of project, you might strongly consider what you would offer to us in terms of affordable housing that would help to meet that need that a reconfiguration and redevelopment on the site would demonstrably remove. So anyway, it's a comment, it's a suggestion. It's going to be, I think this is going to be kind of toughy for the council. I'm the District 3 colleague, or the District 3 representative, so I should theoretically be the most enthusiastic about it, but I find myself not consumed with enthusiasm. So I think I appreciate the architecture. I very much appreciate the landscaping. I appreciate the stormwater management on site. I think all of those are unquestionably a community benefit. But this council's stated, one of this council's stated primary goals is to bring and maintain affordable housing in the city of College Park. And here we have, an example of a couple hundred units of what's probably passes in this region for affordable housing, used mostly by students. And so we would want to think carefully about what replaces that if it is replaced. So those are my comments and my thoughts. And thank you.
Okay. Do you want to respond to the affordable housing suggestion? I think a couple of council members actually talked about that.
Yes, I would. I think that's some of those comments are very fair. I appreciate I actually appreciate the story about Spring Hill Lake. In the 60s, that was luxury, and now it's what it is. I suspect more workforce housing. I suspect that's probably the case with some of the older student housing farther up on Baltimore Avenue. But that's something we can certainly look into, because consistent with your example, as time goes on, what was once luxury becomes more, I don't know if workforce is the right word since we're talking about students, but I think I understand what you're saying. But yes, I understand. There was a question, and one of your comments sort of triggered it. There was a question about stormwater management and the impact on Wells Run. Guilford Run. Right now, because of how that building was constructed and when it was constructed, there is no stormwater management. None. If this proposal is approved, or if my client walks away, or if it stays where it's currently in the state that it is, independent of the state of repair that those buildings are in, it will continue to have exactly no stormwater management on that property until somebody does something. And I don't think the condos are going to do anything, because they haven't done anything so far. So what this proposal will do is significantly offset some of the impacts of the no stormwater management on the property on Guilford Run.
Thank you. Dr. Esther, you raised your hand.
Mr. Hatcher, I know that you have heard the mention of affordable housing over and over again. I will not dig too deep. However, I will reemphasize the focus that the city has had and the number of students who have come to us to say that they can afford a lot of the housing that currently exists in the city. And some would argue that we have a number of buildings, but in some instances, we don't have full occupancy. I heard you say earlier, if I'm correct, that I believe the Standard has full occupancy. Is that correct?
I think it's at 90.
It's, yeah, high 90s.
Well, that's appreciated. I do think that it is important that as we continue to have development in the city, that we truly, the individuals who are building, truly consider the need to incorporate some level of affordable housing. I don't know what that looks like, but a lot of what we've seen has been luxury. It's been beautiful, but doesn't always meet the needs of our students and the individuals who are going to school here. And what we want to be able to do is to have this be a place for everyone who wants to come to school here and not have these things be out of reach. So I do hope that that is considered. I think what you've shared thus far is beautiful, but again, we want it to be something that's attainable. And I think that as a developer, you have the opportunity to do something a little different that may actually pull in students from a variety of backgrounds, economic backgrounds. So thank you, and I hope that we see some of that moving forward.
Thank you. You want to make comments, please? That's fine. Councilor Hernandez.
Yeah, thank you. Let me just start off with saying that it really isn't the architecture that we have a problem with, nor the amenities that are provided to the city. We really do appreciate the investment and the thoughtful research that somebody really did to align with our priorities. What we have a problem with, or at least what I have a problem with, is the use, right? You're saying that it's student housing and that student housing currently exists, but now we're going to replace it with something that's much more likely more expensive, and you can't own it. Come from a humble background, right? I couldn't afford any of these luxury apartments. I've heard anecdotes that some of the, and this is anecdote, so I have no confirmation here, but from students who say they'll just wait like until a week past the semester start, and everybody just drops their rates for purchases. And it might not be your property, it might be other properties, because of how saturated the market is. All right, but you know what? I recognize your comment that, you know, we've been messaging strategically, but I mean, I'd push back on that a little bit, that, you know, markets change all the time, and the private sector has to adapt to survive. I think the governor's office and so many other entities have publicly messaged the need for affordable housing. I guess I'm curious though, who are you all planning on serving? Like, what's your target demographic?
I mean, our target demographic is students of University of Maryland. We don't have a really more demographic than that.
Well, you know, I asked that because, like, I'll tell you, in District 1, right, in the northern part of College Park, where luxury apartments would be a luxury to have, we've seen that, you know, most of the student housing units that are there aren't necessarily filled by the University of Maryland students. In fact, like, we've had to bring in some people from other universities. So obviously, there's not much of a need for students, like, for housing for students of the University of Maryland. I'm just offering you from our perspective for the people that live here. But, you know, I also wanted to make sure that, like, we, like, fully communicated that we're willing to work with you all, but, like, help find a way where you guys can help address some of the strategic goals that we're working or trying to present. I would love to get up here and say, oh, you know, all housing, all developers are bad. I was told this morning Do you want it to feel good, or do you want to be right, or do you want to or you want to be successful? And I'm trying to disagree better with you all here, and have a conversation that really articulates how do we help the students that are here, because you guys provided incredible amenities. They really are thoughtful. I'm glad that you're addressing the stormwater management properties, but it's still not bridging the gap. If you have 160 units and you're gonna house or stuff 4 or 5 people in there, right? You can afford to give 20% of that unit or housing to affordable housing, or mix it. You know what? I don't know anything about this business, but I'm telling you, let's find a compromise. Let's have those conversations. Otherwise, we'll say what we say up here. You'll keep pushing, and then it'll be the normal PG County thing that you all know as you present to us, right? So I'm really just trying to find that bridge so that we can work together as partners.
Thank you. Any comments you want to make? Please go ahead.
Yeah, I'm
Ms. Aug-
definitely proud to have been born and lived in Prince George's County, so I understand your comments.
Thank you. Ms. Aug, do you want to?
I have a few questions for you. I'll just say them all at once and you can respond after. So first of all, parking is a big issue I've seen with these apartment buildings. Apartments like Terrapin Row do not include parking in the lease. And there's also, even if they did, there wouldn't be enough parking spots for these students. I think that is important, especially for many students. If you're including EV vehicle parking, I would be interested to hear if parking is included in the lease, or if parking is extra, and if so, how much extra? Just adding on to the cost that students without a career yet can't afford. I would also like to talk to you about the amenities that you're providing. There's a large amount of amenities. Amenities usually provide higher prices. We've seen this with Terrapin Row, with the new Union on Knox. Knox looks very nice. All of these things, what sets this apartment building apart from all of these other apartment buildings? What is the need for this one? I know there's a nice, the garden looks great, but what need is there for that? And I speak as someone who regularly cleans the Guilford Run property, the stream over there. But I still think that the community benefits, like the stormwater runoff, do not outweigh the harm that luxury apartments are causing by replacing affordable housing. I know students who have had to take out loans to get apartments here. I also know people that would have been students that chose not to go to University of Maryland because of the crisis here.
Thank you for your questions. My understanding and in my experience, particularly in dealing with the student housing developments and also just market rate developments, is that the decoupling of the parking space from the unit was generally encouraged because it discouraged more cars coming in. And so that's the response to that question. I don't, and that's a policy that the city sort of universally had. So if that's changed, that's possible, but that's the policy. Again, I don't know what we are defining as affordable and not affordable in a student housing context. I think what is being articulated is that the houses, the price per bed for certain people who want to lease it is higher than those that can afford that students can afford. I think that's what's being articulated. That's a little different than my understanding of workforce housing and affordable housing, but I just want to make sure I understand what you are saying.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
Good evening, Mr. Hatcher.
Yes, ma'am.
I've deliberately sat here and just listened. At the end of the day, sitting on this dais for almost 15 years, I heard you say about our plan that we've had 10 or 15 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And currently, we have pivoted to looking at affordable housing. The price point for students coming on campus to purchase an apartment off campus is extremely high. You're talking about, what, $1,700, $1,800 per bed? I could be wrong, but it's high, and that's what we heard. That's a lot for a student matriculating at the University of Maryland, College Park. To my colleague's point about other universities having students here, that's due to the fact that they don't have housing. So these off-campus housing are able to backfill with students from Bowie, Howard, and American. And that's how they're able to get to a 95% rate for filling. So yes, we have changed in our stance about housing because it has to be affordable. Because the university is not building any housing on campus. So we do need to be able to work collectively with our students to find them housing that is affordable and a range that they can afford, not what you're trying to sell.
I'm not trying to sell anything.
Thank you.
Well, I know you're not, Mr. Hatcher, but you're representing the client. And we can agree to disagree, and I still think you're the best person in the world.
Oh, that's nice. Thank you, Ms. Mackey. Please.
I just wanted to say a few things. And one is, as the years have gone by, we have less and less to develop here in College Park. So that is why I think you're getting a lot of pushback. And so I just want you to be aware that I appreciate the job that our staff did. I mean, as always, they're super thorough, and this looks like a beautiful facility. But when the day is ending, we have students who have come to us, we just had, I guess, 2 weeks ago, about how much it's costing them to live on campus, not even on campus, in these luxury apartments, and we have to answer to them. So, so that's why I think tonight's hasn't been as easy as maybe it has been in the past, because we have fewer and fewer places to build now in College Park. And that's all I wanted to say.
Right. Thank you. Is this second right? Please go ahead.
So, Mr. Hatcher, to your question, I just wanted to say that I often have the same response you do when people hear affordable housing, and oftentimes people mistake it for subsidized housing or workforce housing. And it is, as you said, at least in my mind, that we are identifying a price point that students in general will be able to afford. I think oftentimes these price points are identified because parents can afford a certain amount of money, or because students receive financial aid, scholarships, things of that nature. But I think to truly look at providing a cost that a student can afford, because if they can't afford it, they wind up coming into the neighborhoods. And not that we have a problem with students living in the residential neighborhoods, but that's where they can find things that are more affordable when these units were built to house students. I used to work at the University of Maryland, where students were living in motels for a period of time because there was no housing. So to know that there are a number of units that are here is great, but we also want our students to be able to live in them. So I don't know if that answered the question for you or not, but we haven't heard anything about a price point. I do want to identify that too. We didn't hear anything said about that. I think that there are, given some of what we've seen in the past, there are some natural presumptions that we're making about cost, and when we hear about the amenities that are there, and all of this costs something. And ultimately, a lot of this winds up coming out of the pockets of the students who are living there. So I don't know if that answered it, but I tried to.
Can you talk about the prices, price points, like, it's me. Have you talked internally, even any estimate or guesstimate?
I mean, it's gonna be driven by the market. We don't have the prices.
That's what I thought. Pretty standard. Ms. Bader, is there any other hands, do I see? Ms. McDonald's.
Yeah, I have a similar concern with the affordable housing aspect of it all as it relates to students. Generally speaking, the standard currently, while it's, filled to 90 whatever percent it is, listed prices are higher than many of the apartments in the area. I can say that because I just looked at the website. A one-bedroom apartment is listed for almost $2,600. And that's really expensive. And for example, a student who has ADS accommodations, they have specific accommodations to say, they cannot live in a housing unit with a roommate or whatever the situation is. So I guess my greatest concern is, in a sense, that the prices may be similar to the standard, seeing that the builders, it's the same builder. Is there any form of commitment that you guys can make or eventually will make to commit to some form of affordability, considering that you guys are providing student housing and students generally don't have a lot of money, and this is just a concern that many council members have spoken about. And also to that point, will the rent that is listed or that students will post, have this also been something that's discussed yet as to what the rent will include? Would it include utilities, internet, anything of that sort? Because then those things add up, and then it could be a further expense to students.
Thank you. Any comments?
I mean, like I said, we don't have the rents finalized for, at this point, it's 5 years out before this will be delivered. But to your second question, our rents do typically include internet and utilities.
It'll be inclusive, okay. Thank you. So I have a couple of second bite hands, starting with Mr. Rigg, then Mr. Mitchell.
Yeah, I'll be very brief. So, Mr. Hatcher, you asked about what would, hypothetically constitute affordable. I think it's, in a review of the College Park Towers website, it looks like, they'll have 2-bedroom apartments for 4 residents at about, $2,500 to $2,900 a month. So that's about $600 to $700 per bed per month, which would be, about half of what I think we see in a lot of our other newer apartment complexes, which I think are closer to $1,300 per bed per month, or roughly an average of that. So, that I think would be a fair benchmark for what would constitute affordable. I think another fair benchmark for what would constitute affordable that's a bit higher is you could look at dormitories on campus. So dormitories on campus, a single with a bed, with AC would be over the span of the 9-month period, $10,000. So it's about, $1,050, $1,075 per bed per month. So I think that is what I think would be in our sort of collective mind, the range of what would constitute affordable. Obviously, the university doesn't build new dormitories, and so by definition, affordable housing is not being built in the city of College Park for student residents because the university is not building it, and they're the only builder of affordable housing. So I think that's why you see a lot of us sort of trying to find a place where there can maybe be some trade space with you all. So, could we, for example, talk about there being a portion of this project that's set aside for affordability, or could there be a program for affordability for certain students with demonstrable needs? So, for example, the City of College Park has a student housing subsidy program that I wouldn't suggest that you replicate for this necessarily, but it does establish criteria, including the presence of a Pell Grant and a Students Award, which is a fairly well-recognized, signifier of fairly substantial need. And maybe there's an opportunity to discuss that, as this project proceeds, just because it would displace those units that I mentioned before at the price points that they're at, and I think that's where you're hearing a lot of the sensitivity from. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you. That's very helpful, actually. I appreciate that, Mr. Rigg. Question to applicant: is it something you might be considering? That what Mr. Rigg is suggesting.
Well, we haven't considered something like that in the past. First, I've heard something like that, but it's something we can talk about.
Okay, you're open to talk about that. Okay, thank you. All right, Ms. Mitchell. I see a couple of hands. Okay, this is probably the last round. Thank you. Please go ahead.
To Mr. Hatcher and to the client, I see that you have a tentatively scheduled date for the planning board on March 27th.
Yes.
Would you be willing to sit down again to listen, after listening to the concerns of my colleagues, and review your current plan before going to the planning board on the 27th? Just asking that question.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're hearing some of these comments real time, first time.
I understand.
So we'd like to talk with you a lot. Like to not stop talking to you. Let's talk tomorrow. Let's talk the day after. But I think we're going to need some time to sort of analyze what we're hearing. I'm not entirely sure I've ever heard of well.
Student subsidy?
No, that's not what I was going to say.
Affordability.
An affordable student housing developer. I've heard of affordable housing developers. I've heard of workforce housing developers. I've heard of age-restricted developers. I've worked with them all. I take a point of pride to work with them all. I've just never heard of that. Although it might seem like a small thing, I'm not entirely sure. I'd have to check. We just have to check. I don't even know. That's an interesting question.
I mean, I appreciate that. I guess, your first time at bat, and it's not maybe what you thought was going to be tonight, but it's something that's always a pivot and a workable if we're going to work together collectively, correct?
I hear you.
Thank you, Mr. Hatcher.
Thank you. And this item is coming back on March 18th. I see the staff report, so I still have about 2 weeks. So but plenty of time to think about. I know this is the first time you're hearing about it. Again, the staff will be helping you in reaching some goal. Who was in this side? Mr. Hernandez?
I had a quick question for the developers. Do you all have any affordable student housings in any of your portfolio?
We do.
I'm sorry?
They do.
Oh, they do. Yeah, I can't. It's if it doesn't hear from here, you can't hear.
We do.
You do. Okay. And so if you have that in your portfolio, you kind of already have an idea of what it is we may be looking for. I know it seems that we have a wide range of the definition of affordability, and I fully understand that. I get it. Like private sector, I understand from a full perspective that you all have a demographic here that needs to continue to go to school, needs to have a place to live, and for what it sounds like, it was way before I was on council, there was a desired need expressed that luxury apartments would be great. Familiar with inclusionary zoning? What do you guys do when, like, I wish we had zoning, like land use rights, but I know, there's a reason we don't have land use rights, right? And I won't say it from the dais. But I will say, if you all must have to work with other municipalities when building affordable student housing units, if a requirement's out there, right?
Yes.
Okay. What is the difference here?
Well, in places with inclusionary zoning, it's something we know up front, right? So when we're negotiating land prices and planning on the developments, that's something that's included from the get-go. it can change the
He
calculus.
can't hear. My colleague is hard of hearing.
I'm so sorry. Yeah, no, if we don't know from the start, then it changes the calculus. And, we've been working on this project for 18 months now. So it's not something that we just started on, a couple months ago, and we can easily pivot. This is something we've already spent considerable amount of money on and time, and I guess, yeah, that's the difference, just knowing up front.
I want to be as empathetic as possible. I know that my colleagues have been talking about this since even before I was on council, before the 18 months. So I want to apologize just on behalf of council that we haven't had that opportunity to express it to you very clearly, that we are interested in seeing affordable housing in the city, not only for student housing, but for mixed usage. For me, I'm very troubled by charging by the bed, because eventually that'll run out and what we just have a furnished building. This is just my long-term thinking 20, 30 years from now, right now. None of us will be in our roles then. I hopefully will be retired. But it's concerns from a strategic perspective. I'd like to see if we could try to explore an affordable student housing unit. I think you would still get, your margins will be smaller. All right, I understand that. But understand that from the mayor and council here, I don't feel the support that usually developers have, and I'll probably be on the side where I'm not supportive. I mean, and I know that might not do much here. I got that. And the residents know that as well. Residents, I can't tell you how many people tell us, oh, well, does it even matter if you guys are against it? But at least we're doing our residents their due justice by representing and looking for ways to work with you all. So I'd hope that we could do that.
Thank you. Let's see how many, is it second or third bite? Please be brief if you could, please.
Oh, I will be brief. Just want to say hi to Mr. Hatcher. It's been 10 years since we worked together on Monument Village. We were very thorough then.
Yep.
And I don't need to say much because from my opening statement, asking for a percentage of affordable housing has been restated by this whole dais for all my colleagues. So I hope you hear us loud and clear, and you know that from your experience working with together that I'm not coming into this without understanding my community, without understanding the needs of this city. So I hope you're hearing us loud and clear.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Hopefully not. Thank you. I'm sorry, it has been a long night. Thank you for patiently waiting and responding to many questions and hearing us. So this is the night we are discussing it. We are not voting on the item. This item is coming back on the 18th. We still have 2 weeks. And you heard a lot about many things. And I believe the staff, Ms. Bader and Mr. Nunes, they'll be working with you on some of the items. Some of the items will be easy. Some of the items probably you need more time to think about. I'm sure our staff will be updating us as you go through the process. And if you have any questions, we could be very helpful to respond. Any final thoughts from your side?
I want to thank you all for your time.
Okay,
That's
thank
what
you.
I was going to say as well. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thanks so much. I look forward to working with you and look forward to seeing you on the 18th. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time. Absolutely. All right. So we have a smaller work session, I believe, or a shorter work session, and that will be about the legislative update review, and this will be taken by, as usual, our very capable staff, Assistant City Manager, Mr. Gardiner.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Couple updates from the report that was in the packet. Today we had a hearing on the legislation that we actually requested MML to make a priority last summer, and they weren't able to make it a priority, but they did speak in favor of it today. And this is the legislation that would grant all municipalities statewide the authority to increase municipal infraction fines from the current $1,000 to $5,000 the $1,000 cap was set in 1990. And today, there was a hearing. Senator Rosapep was one of the sponsors of the legislation, and I think it went well. We had representatives from Upper Marlboro, Crisfield, Greenbelt, College Park, all speaking in favor of the legislation. So hopefully we'll see that move soon. The bill that we've pushed to try to get land use authority hasn't been voted on by the Bi-County Committee, and so we'll have to keep an eye on that to see if it actually gets voted out or not. And I know Mayor Pro Tem had some questions about a couple of child care related bills, and I emailed Mayor and Council, the lobbyist, sort of take on whether they had a opportunity, a good chance of passing or not. But happy to try to respond to any questions you have on any of the other bills in the packet.
Any questions? Ms. Mitchell, I saw a couple of questions. Thank you for the engagement.
No, and thank you to the Assistant City Manager Gardner and to our lobbyist, Mr. Lucci, about answering the questions about those child care bills, especially I am most interested in HB 859, SB 611. And Mr. Gardner, you stated that that may likelihood have some passage.
Yes, that is a bill that would urge the state to help child care entities, help their staff qualify for health insurance. And it expands the definition of a child care entity that would allow more people to be able to obtain insurance, I think, under their umbrella. So, Mr. Lucci said that he thought that it has a chance of passing. There's not a state financial impact. It's really more advocacy and a policy change, but the idea is that it would increase the opportunities and increase the number of child care workers who would be able to be covered by health insurance.
And I do appreciate that. As a former administrator, that was always a struggle with providers not being able to afford on the income that they were receiving insurance. For most of them, they were making below minimum wage due to their skill set. So if it is all possible that we could send a letter, you saying that the hearing date is on tomorrow?
Hearing's tomorrow, but that's okay. We can still provide comment to the committee.
I would appreciate my colleagues' indulgence in supporting this.
Thank you. Mr. Gardiner, the land use bill, you said it's not happening this Thursday, right? The hearing? Not the hearing, the meeting at the committee.
That's correct. There was a hearing on the bill. Well, I'm sorry. There was a discussion of the legislation, and it was supposed to have been brought back the following week, presumably for a vote, and that has been at least 2 weeks, and it hasn't come back for a vote. So,
and you do not know if it is coming back in the future, any the date.
Don't know, but a lot of bills just sort of die quiet deaths in committees. They don't.
Yeah, that's my concern.
One way or the other.
It's not going to die.
I mean, it's always a possibility.
It will be very unfortunate. All right. Any other, Ms. Mackey, and then Ms. Whitney.
I just have a really quick one. The AARP Livability Committee was wondering about HB 20. HB 20, I think it's about like affordable housing near transit zones. So
I will look that up.
I asked you about it before, but yeah, I didn't see anything in this
Okay.
report. And I should have gotten back to you, and I apologize for that. I just got inundated with life, so I just thought I'd mention it tonight. Thank you. And you could check with someone on that committee or Mrs.
Yeah, I'll look it up and just email the council.
Okay, thank you. Any, Ms. Whitney?
Yes, building on what Mayor Pro Tem mentioned about the particular childcare bill that she's seeking support for, which I support. Is there any chance of the new task force being able to consider any of these other legislations and provide feedback to us? Or is the timeline really such that council needs to make its own decisions if there are certain ones of these they want to support?
Yeah, there's time, there's still time, the crossover date, so crossover happened? So, no, the crossover date hasn't happened yet, but bills have to be introduced by now. So yes, there's still time to review and comment on these. I think our lobbyists will also be helpful in kind of helping us decide which ones seem to be moving forward and where we could spend some energy and which ones need help. The committee, is going to be meeting Thursday evening.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, I have a motion to extend.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Meeting extended. You're done with Ms. Whitney?
No. My one other question is just the one that I brought up before about the real property short-term rentals. I'm wondering if we needed to send a letter of opposition to that.
I don't believe we do. I'll
Okay.
follow up again, but I don't think that's going anywhere.
Okay, awesome.
I'll
Thank you.
check.
Thank you. Mr. Hernandez?
I haven't really commented on these things because I'm not fully well-versed on how the state house works. One of the concerns that I'm really troubled by the federal Congress is cuts to Medicare and Medicaid. And the state of Maryland is going to do it tries to do to help bridge those gaps. But I mean, if I could just add a couple HBs to the watch list, I don't think we fully need to take a position at this moment. I mean, and I want to make sure that my colleagues are able to look at them. But so HB 718, 1045, and 936. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. So 718, 1045, and 936. It's a range of different like services that it would address. Of course, Medicare and Medicaid's handled at the federal level, but is it really? Okay. But the funding comes from federal match. Yeah, okay, yeah. So
Right, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And
Sure.
Staff is going to look into them and give us an update. Anyone else?
No, just clarification.
Please go ahead.
And excuse me, just point of clarification, and I do appreciate my colleague, Councilman Whitney, talk about the child care bills. So, to Assistant City Manager, Mr. Gardner, are you saying for HB 859, we can hold until the child care task force meets this Thursday? No, I'm just asking for clarification, because I need to, my senior brain right now at 10:30 needs to understand what, I just want to make sure, because if not, I want to move forward with that one, and let the other ones, they can have a
I think
discussion.
if council wishes to vote on it tonight, and we can vote on it and convey that message as soon as possible to the House committee that's reviewing it.
Okay,
and
so we
Senate
can make a
committee.
motion to go in special session?
No, we
Okay.
don't need a motion.
Okay.
But you
Just
can.
move to support.
Yeah, I have make a motion to move to support HB 859, SB 611.
Second.
Okay. Any comment? Probably not.
No.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed and abstention? So we send a letter, right? All right. Any other bill we can act on? Don't have anything on the action item. All right, that's good. Mr. Gardner, anything you have on your end? Good, so we move to the request for status of the future agenda items. I don't think I've seen any application. Is there any question from the list we have, any other items? We don't have a meeting? I think we have a meeting next week, right? Yeah.
Council's going to NLC next week. We didn't do a meeting next week.
It's a good catch. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So we don't have a meeting. So let's go to the comment from audience. Let me see. We have great audience in the room. If anyone wants to speak. But we have one raised hand, Mr. Hussain. Can staff allow him to speak, please? Mr. Hussain, please state your name for the record.
Hussain Wahid, College Park Initiative for Advanced Technology Acceleration with the involvement of volunteers and students. I was just trying to find out, this proposal of the construction of new housing apartments. Did they take into consideration renewable energy for the plan? There's no need to answer now, but later on when new applicants come in, does the College Park require, how these housing facilities address renewable energy? Because I had put together the standards for the whole region for 15 states, and that is being implemented now after many years in Maryland, and I noticed they're trying to pass standards in the House. So I was wondering, does College Park have something similar with respect to the buildings and things like that? Later on we can discuss with some technical person.
Thank you. Thanks for your comments. I do not see any other virtual hand. Let's come back to the council and for the comments from the mayor, council, and the student liaison, and the student managers. Mr. Rigg.
Pass.
Ms. Mackey.
I'll just go quickly. Councilmember Hernandez and I attended the meeting at High Point High School, and it was very interesting to know that there is a plan. They have a three-pronged plan to either raise to the ground or if anyone's interested, I can send you the plan. But it was wonderful to at least see it, and participate with it and meet the principal and some of the students at the school. So it was a great opportunity, and thank you.
Thank you for attending. Ms. Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I happen to stand in for the mayor, for the Mayor's Alliance for Hunger meeting. This is approximately 350 mayors from the United States. Why I'm bringing it up tonight is because there is a true threat in regards to cutting SNAP. And this is a program that helps those of our scholars who are underserved, who are in Title I schools. So there is a letter that the mayor did sign off on. So thank you, Mr. Mayor, for signing off on the letter and to continue to support and rally behind this effort not to get rid of the program. So I just wanted to inform my colleagues about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for attending the meeting. So last week, it's kind of a fun week for me. I had the chance to attend and go to our elementary schools, two of our elementary schools in College Park, Hollywood Elementary, and today I went to Paint Branch to talk about if I were the mayor, why I would as a contest. And it's been always a fun time. You don't believe how many or how much great ideas they have, honestly. They have really very good ideas. So that was last week and today, and along with most of the city council members attended Four Cities meeting. And this week, On Thursday and Friday, I'll be attending MMA, Maryland Municipal Mayors Association meeting in Annapolis. And meet the governor, hopefully. And we'll be attending, look forward to attending the ribbon cutting ceremony at the College Park Clubhouse. Thank you, Ms. Mitchell and Ms. Mackey, for your leadership. I look forward to attending it. Exciting time. Thank you. All right, Ms. Whitney?
Pass.
Dr. Esters?
Pass.
Mr. Hill?
Thank you very much. I had the honor of representing the city this week for the JTCC tennis facility that was had a presentation about their Paris Standing Tournament, which is I'm very proud that not just to have the JTCC in our city, but for what they're doing for the handicapped community. This tournament featured tennis players from around the country who have some sort of handicap that that allowed them to pursue their passion of playing tennis and actually playing in a tournament that's recognized. It was a very refreshing event, and I was glad to meet a number of those athletes and the individuals responsible for bringing this to our city.
Thank you. Thanks for attending. I know they invited our entire city council, but you're the only one who made it. So thank you. Thank you for representing College Park, Mr. Hernandez. Thank you for attending the High Point event, Mr. Hernandez.
Yeah, that was really great. I was very impressed by the administration at High Point, and there was like cadets, like Air Force JROTC cadets that were there. There was students running. I mean, it was really impressive. I was pleasantly surprised by how well like High Point ran that event. And there was a lot of parents that attended as well. My big thing, district discussion happening tomorrow. It's an opportunity to provide input and to communicate kind of just a summary of all of the things that are happening here in council. If you can make it, please do, to the residents out there. I am extraordinarily excited that I'm going to just take a point of personal privilege here to just tell you how excited I am about Duval Field. I don't know if you've heard, but there will be a groundbreaking next week at 8:30 a.m. and thankful for all of the city staff and their work this past couple weeks. I feel like I've been particularly needy asking for the Department of Public Works and Public Services and the communications staff and our legal representatives who I know helped close up the agreements with Duval. So thank you all so much.
Thank you. Keep bugging them. They're good people. That never mind.
You're in plenty of company.
Mr. Audi.
Pass.
Sorry, Miss Audi. Sorry, what did I say? Ms. McDonald.
I pass as well, thank you.
And Mr. Young.
Just real quick, special election Tuesday, March 11th, from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. here in City Hall in the community room for our residents. And that's all I have tonight.
Thank you. All right, now we go to, I invite a comment. Sorry, now entertain a motion.
Motion to adjourn. I think that's hard to say. What happened there?
Ms. Allen, did you capture that? Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, any abstention? We are adjourned. Good night, College Park. We are not meeting next week.